Welcome back to the Heroes of the Storm Fall Regional for North America as we get into our lower half of Group B. Now, 3 series are done. We have 2 more to find out who is going to be moving on in second place here in Group B. And to find that out, we obviously need to know who is going to be in our final match of the day. And it will be between TNC and GDG to figure out who is going to be going up against GFE. That's a lot of acronyms. I'll try and start with those as quickly as possible. To my left, we have the Beauty and the Beast. Gilly here. How are you doing? You've been casting?
The Beast, clearly, right?
Okay, yeah.
I figured as much. Doing great. I'm so thrilled that I got to commentate those last 2 matches. Vox and Healy, I was already calling them my dark horse for the event, but also just getting to be up there and being really excited for those matches. It was really fun. And now I get to hang out here with you guys.
Yeah, it's been a blast. It's been a blast. I cannot believe what just happened in those matches.
I know.
I am so surprised. I don't even know what to say.
But it felt like Vox and Healy had won that in draft, never mind anything else. It was a little bit sporadic, I would say, from GFE going into that Tomb of the Spider Queen game, but that's as it's to be.
Both games were very, very NA games. NA heroes, boys. We saw an amazing bot lane throw in the first game by GFE, and then the almost turbo throw by Vox and Healy on the boss in that Tomb of the Spider Queen game, and then, oh my gosh, my heart couldn't handle it.
If it's almost throws versus throws, does that mean that we are evolving, getting better maybe?
I wish I could say that we were.
Yeah.
I wish I could say we were, but there weren't any Abathurs in that game.
I mean, are you trying to say that things have changed since the Cloud9 days? Is that what you're saying?
No, we threw all the time too.
Oh,
so.
okay, good stuff. Well, I'm glad you're giving NA a hard time, because every time I have Dread over in the EU, he gives us a hard time non-stop, so I'm glad I don't have to be the one to do it when I come over here. I appreciate that. So, we have, indeed, TNC going up against Gul'dan's game. Gul'dan's game didn't impress me as much as I was expecting them to coming into this tournament, Gillyweed. They had a bit of a rough time against Vox and Healy.
They did struggle. They won that first game, but again, had the execution with the Gust at the end been a little bit cleaner, then it could have just been a 2-0. And they would do really well in the early game versus Vox, but then Vox always, mid to late game, especially very late game at the end, would be able to turn it around. And partially, of course, that's them finally finding the right fight, but also that has to be, of course, to give up that big of a lead that they would have, problematic for Gul'dan's game too.
All right, let's take a closer look at TNC here, of course, as they will be what some people consider the challengers. But, I mean, you were saying to me before, Dunk, that these teams are quite evenly matched on TNC's side as well.
Definitely. These teams seem very evenly matched. We have heard good things about all 3 of these teams that we came to this match expecting, or this group, I'm sorry, with the expectation that Gale Force would steamroll. Kind of like we saw Naventic steamroll yesterday. But at the same time, we heard good things about all 3 teams in the group, other than them, from various people. So it's a huge surprise to see Gale Force go to the lower side of the bracket. But not only that, I just have no clue who's going to win between TNC and Gul'dan's game.
One thing, though, for TNC is they had to deal with a composition from Gale Force that potentially they have never even experienced before. That Leoric combination or composition was just so strange. So if they're more knowing what to expect from Gul'dan's game, which of course Gul'dan's game can throw out some very strange compositions too. They have the potential, they're very flexible and have some pocket picks. Maybe they can be surprised again, but also maybe they will just be more happy with some standard compositions here.
They've come 7th and 8th in the last 2 regionals that they've been in. Is this the time that they end up breaking that curse for TNC?
It's possible. They have a different roster now slightly. That is, to be fair. I mean, Goku is a talented player. Yeah. We've seen him have difficulties at lands before, and if he overcomes those, TNC could be in a great place. If not, who knows what's going to happen.
And then, of course, on the other side, we have Gul'dan's game, previously high score during the qualifiers, having changed their name, and, of course, 3 of the previous members from Brainpower. And then, of course, McIntyre from Naventic, as before, and Jason from Panda Global. I mean, looking at their first series, the expectation was a little bit higher from them going into it, but I think that they could make waves here in this game, Gilly.
Yeah, I definitely think they can. One thing to note about these players on Gul'dan's game is they did have some missed synergy in qualifiers, but I think a lot of people expected that because they were so new at the time. but not that they would still potentially have troubles here at this point. While they qualified in the first qualifier and had plenty of time to be able to improve that. I have heard from one of the members that they're still trying to find kind of their team identity. So that may be what's happening here, trying to figure out, you know, who's shot calling, who is picking things, and that could be one of the potential problems that happen to them in the late game versus Vox Nihili.
And it's not like there isn't flexibility to Gul'dan's game as well. If you look at the 3 games that they actually played against Vox Nihili, their drafts were wildly different. You know, we had them actually having huge control potential on Cursed Hollow, missing that a little bit with the Zagara, the ETC, and the Zeratul. And then in other games, they were able to try and bust out the Jaina there on towers, etc., and things like that. So it's not like that's a weakness. What do you think is holding them back? It's just a little bit of inexperience with each other? What do you think it is?
It seemed to me that the biggest weakness was mostly in the late game decisiveness.
Yes.
Okay. We harp on this all the time. This is something that really made old Tempo Storm magical, is because that late game decisiveness where you see an opening, you take it and immediately win the game. That's something that Gul'dan's game was missing. And it's also something, to be fair, that we didn't see out of Vox Nihili in their match against Gul'dan's game. But then against Gale Force, they really turned it up. So if Gul'dan's game can do the same thing here, and in the lower bracket, turn up that late game decision making, not make those same mistakes, get on the same page, they could definitely win this series.
All right, well, we shall see as we'll be going into the draft in just a little bit between these two teams. Our first map is going to be Dragonshire, I think. And this is actually the first time we've seen Dragonshire throughout the tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong.
This is the first time. Also, I am almost positive that this was, I thought it was going to be TNC's pick. They have something they do on this battleground, but I'm going to just leave it at that.
That's not fair. You have to tell us now.
I'll tell you.
No.
Secrets?
No, that is fair. That's how you're supposed to do it. Like, if you have inside information, you've got to wait until you see it. Otherwise, you might be calling them out for other teams to hear. Yeah.
Well, importantly, they did get Kerrigan, though, which has not always been available to teams. She's been banned out a lot in here, but Gul'dan's game fearing more the Falstad, and I love that TNC banned Kael'thas so that she could be an availability for them because they really do enjoy playing her.
Okay, they do enjoy playing her. I wasn't sure if that was for them or is that a denial from McIntyre. So you're saying TNC very comfortable on the Kerrigan?
Yes.
Okay, so I like Gul'dan's response to go to the Thrall Zagara. Those two heroes are widely known as some of the best top laners on Dragonshire. Not many teams in North America play the Chen, which is considered one of the other top lane matchups that European areas favor very heavily into the Zagara on this map, but we haven't seen that very much in North America. I would like to see that here, but I like Gul'dan's game securing the top lane control.
Uther comes in as well, and that's quite the powerful little trio that Team Name Change starts things with, right?
Yeah, they have the potential to get a lot of damage very quickly on the members of Gul'dan's game, along with the fact that they have Divine Shield for either babying the Greymane or Kerrigan, but they won't be able to do both, which could maybe be a problem depending on how Gul'dan's game is able to throw out damage of their own.
At this point, it seems to me like Gul'dan's game has to give up 5v5 team fighting. You're not going to be able to survive against Kerrigan or Greymane when they're backed up by the Uther, and you're not. So, especially given that TNC got to ban out the Rhaegar, now Gul'dan's game needs to shift gears and find a way to play the split game and avoid 5v5ing TNC. So
it's something like a Brightwing, something that could be very strong on this map, reinforcing a shrine, just keeping it to the objectives and just keeping, as you say, a split.
Iacona can play any support, so Brightwing is absolutely a potential. Looking at what we have too, one great factor for the composition of Gul'dan's game. Wow, that is interesting. I was going to say Caterpillar has a fantastic Thrall. His Thrall, actually, sorry, I am getting right behind on the members of the team here. This is McIntyre, who will probably be on that Zeratul, which means I think Jason will play Thrall.
Interesting. Yeah, the double melee assassin plus a tank composition, not seen that often unless it's Tyrael. Usually, if you're running that double melee assassin, you have the Tyrael to enable those two. But despite Tyrael being available in this game, not selected for this map, Gul'dan's game obviously valuing the wave control more than the team fighting, which I think is correct. Right now, they pick up the Zeratul. They're going to need to use Void Prison to get isolation fights. They don't want to try and fight TNC as a whole 5v5. They want to get Shrine control and abuse Zeratul's invisibility to try and make TNC rotate too many people to one Shrine and then strike decisively at the other.
I wonder, because of Void Prison, if we'll have a Maw for them this one too. It is fairly close together, the lanes. So maybe not being able to do as much with Nidus as we would see on like Cursed or even Sky Temple. I don't know which one we'll see from them.
That's an old school double warrior, and look at the power that Team Name Change has behind the idea of diving and then invincibility. I think everything then dives in, everything's invincible, and now Gul'dan's game, as you mentioned, can't team fight that unless a Void Prism slows everything down into infinity, but I don't know if it does.
Even slowed to infinity, you'd have to go beyond that. There's just no way for Gul'dan's game to 5v5 this. They have to split. I mean, maybe there was a chance if TNC messed up their composition at the end or something, but Tyrael and Nubrak, dive buddies, amazing mobility, provide a lot of coverage for the Greymane and the Kerrigan. When they go in, that's a lot of body soaking up damage for your squishies.
Yeah, and they still have double warrior too, so if they get into skirmishes, they have someone else who can potentially leave the team fight to try to grab a shrine if they need to do that, which is really important on Dragonshire. You often get into these 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3 skirmishes. Who is Iacona going to pick to support the team? Rhaegar is off the table. Uther has been grabbed. He can play Kharazim if he wants to try to do that. Hope for good palms, I guess, from all of the damage, but that's pretty scary to have to do by yourself there.
I would not want to play solo monk into that composition.
No, that's scary.
Yeah.
Morales.
Oh.
I would not want to play Morales into that composition. I mean, I think I wanted to play monk, but I definitely do not want to play Morales into that composition. I mean, even when before Tyrael got all the buffs, he was amazing against Medic.
Yeah.
A Nubrak destroys Medic with the dive. I mean, Greymane is a threat on his own. How, if Iacona survives this game, he is a miracle worker.
Yeah, I agree. That's terrifying. Morales is one of my favorite heroes to play, and I am scared for him.
I was going to say, you mean like just the hero. Do you mean mentally if he survives this game? Because trauma could be a thing. Medic's going to have a bit of a difficult time potentially here.
Like trauma trigger might be a thing?
Maybe.
Probably should be.
The thing is that even the front line isn't even that strong to hold on against that, to keep a Medic alive.
Absolutely not. They have just barely some counter engage on the Thrall, and a Johanna, Johanna Medic is a good synergy. I like that composition, but Johanna alone does not stop the tidal wave of a Nubrak, Tyrael, Greymane, Kerrigan.
Yeah, that's a lot of power behind TNC, and it's rare that I sit here just as a host, chilling out, doing my thing. It's pretty casual, and then look at a draft and get scared. TNC's draft is very, very scary because you see it and you know exactly what's going to happen, but can you stop it is the question, Gilly.
It feels like for me that Gul'dan's game have a lot of these really big heroics that could separate out the fight, but I'm so scared now that they're going to have to expend all of them just to keep Morales alive. Ma, to pull people off of her, Sundering, to make sure she stays alive. They want to be using these to separate out and get kills, not to be able to keep Morales safe.
It seems to me that their goal is maybe to use the medevac to outmaneuver their opponents.
Maybe.
They know they can't 5v5. They have to understand that.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll just completely say, all right, use medevac, outplay the opponents by maneuvering around the map.
And even if you don't use it for that, and if you end up in a weird 5v5 situation, you use it as a pseudo ice block and hope you're able to get there out of the way quick enough for that like 3 or 4 seconds wind up to be able to then take off. Because you're going to be under a lot of pressure. It's going to be scary.
And then not healing your team.
Yeah, that bit isn't great. You know what you do? You take the level 20 medevac that heals things around you. It's brilliant. I've used it once, never again.
Yeah, I think the best idea is definitely to wait toward the level 20 for a team. Sounds like a good idea.
All right, well, tell me who really stands out for you, Dunk, here going into this game.
My eyes are going to be on Iacona all game. His positioning is just going to be absolutely the most important thing. The only way Gul'dan's game can survive is if he plays perfectly. So all game, I'm going to keep eyes on him, see if he can not get dived.
Gilly?
Same, but from the other side, who's going to be able to get to Morales first? That's what I'm watching out for.
It's going to be the race to Morales, or Morales escapes. Let's figure this one out. We're heading over to the commentary team. It will be Jake and Dread to bring you the action from Dragonshire.
Thanks so much, guys. We're going into Dragonshire in the very first elimination match of Group B. And Dreadnought, this is about as ham of a composition as I can think of out of TNC.
It's not only ham, but my goodness, that medic pick. I mean, the panel brought it up a lot, but I have to know the thought process here. Anub'arak counter, Tyrael counter, Uther, I mean, Kerrigan counter. and then Greymane, another counter. It's just, I don't know. If he gets into the medevac early here, they're putting a lot of reliance here into the Void, but the teams are going head-to-head in the mid lane for the time being, getting a bit of a skirmish. Zagara looks like she's going to be holding it down in the bottom lane and Thrall in the upper. This does give Gul'dan's game a great laning phase. They have a dominant laner in the top lane, a dominant laner in the bottom lane, and Zeratul for the picks, but you put it best, TNC has a ham composition.
So even if they have the dominant laners, are they going to be able to go toe-to-toe between mid and bottom for the rotations with so many stuns and so much dive potential on the side of TNC? I mean, like you just mentioned, Medic seems like this big liability to try to throw her in the mix of those rotations.
I mean, yeah, that's not even, like, that's in team fights, I think it's worse, but in laning phase, yeah, it's going to be a problem as well, largely because they don't have the wave clear advantage here. You can see they're just playing very, very back and safe, relying on Zeratul maybe to get a pick somewhere because they have no ability to compete in the rotations. Typically, Zag can kind of hold up as you see Faye as she plays very patient on the bottom half, not clearing the lane. So at least a little bit heads up play, adapting to the situation. But right now, Gul'dan's game, they're pretty much just going to go, just don't get wiped in the early game. It's just, you know, it doesn't matter. Wait till our team fight phase. We might be able to make something happen. We have Zeratul. We have potentially a Maw. And Sunder's obviously a game changer as well.
Well, with that early game power on the side of TNC, they are controlling both of the shrines very early. That's an uncommon thing to see here. Will Faye be able to take control of the bottom one? Slowly but surely should be able to whittle down that Greymane, but needs to be wary of the potential rotations.
I mean, with how dominant team name change has been in the early half of this game, I might even say just give up a Dragon Knight right now. Don't risk anything at all. The Dragon Knight's going to be very easy to clear, so as long as you don't make any panicked rotations, honestly, it's almost in their favor until 10 to just let it have it at level 2, clear it as fast as possible, because it's not going to gain very much value, right? Early DKs are not really worth anything, and then buy that downtime where the Dragon Knight can't be taken because you are not going to do well in this laning phase.
Look at Iakona's positioning in this game so far. He exists within that gate. That is his realm. Mac does have the blink ready, but gets Hammer of Justice point blank. Great reaction there by TigerJK picking up the first kill of the game.
Yeah, you know Tiger was spamming that. He was 100% expecting that blink. He was literally just like blink, 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 please. Really good reaction time coming out from TigerJK, able to secure the first kill of this game. And now we see Team Name Change picking it up. And realistically, again, I think I would just let my opponents have it. It is not worth it this early into the match, and you do see TNC picks up the first DK.
Dragonshire, a map that we have not seen yet in this tournament. Typically speaking, you don't see a dragon picked up very early in the game due to the back and forth between the shrines, but sub 3 minutes, TNC starting out great with that early dragon. Looking for a kill here in the top on Jason, who is fighting back with McIntyre rotating on up, but McIntyre has been spotted, needs to be careful here.
Yeah, that was a really heads-up juke there on the side of Jason, and that's what they needed. With the Dragon Knife, they were able to get a pickup as well. That would be worst-case scenario, but TNC has been able to secure themselves what is a half-level lead here just because, again, their dominant laning phase, the kill potential coming out from them. A pick, Buds. That is exactly what we need to see for Gul'dan's game to have a chance in this map, but on the opposite side of the map, counter response, 1-for-1 here so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not seeing the Zagara go a little bit more deep into the bottom lane, realize that everyone is in the top portion of the map. Now the rotation is on its way down, but the Dragon has expired after getting the entire center wall here in the mid lane. Which is good enough, about as much as you can expect out of a Dragon that early in the game.
Yeah, they got the front wall, and that downtime now, this is the breathing area here for Gul'dan's game in this match. They know that they are worried about getting pre-cleared. That's fine. They have the Zagara. She's decent in that rotation. Thrall can hold his own in anything that's going to be happening, but they don't have to worry about the DK, what could be a big problem as this game moves on. So far, Gul'dan's game, they're doing all right. I expected this to be a little bit worse moving into this, so I'm glad to see that they've held their composure so far because they obviously know they're on the back foot for a while.
I mean, even considering they didn't have the Dragon Knight experience, is just about as even as it gets. They will find a go-through here with this 3-man rotation into the top. Iacona always maintaining a very passive position. Went around the backside, decided to rotate back down to mid, make sure he can maintain that soak.
Yeah, we do see Quicksilver Bullets is going to be the option there for the Greymane rather than going for the stacks, getting that bonus damage. Typically when we see that double survivability in the Asian scene, they are willing to take the Wizened Duelist and get a large amount of damage stacking over time. But this pressure on the bottom half here is really going to be hard. I'm surprised they're backing out so heavily. They should know the rotations on the side of Gul'dan's game, maybe get a bit more value of that front wall, but now TNC seems to be the ones playing safe.
Yeah, TNC just not feeling like going full throttle quite yet. Faye will be able to clean up these Giants in the bottom, and Zeratul constantly scouting around. McIntyre has been a great element for the side of Gul'dan's game, just making sure they have eyes on and denying potential rotations that could come through and catch Iacona off guard.
Yeah, and Faye on the bottom half doesn't see Tiger yet. Combo's going to come out as the follow-up, and she's going to lose her life there. Definitely not having the map awareness in that type of situation. It should have been dodgeable. Now Saray looks like he's going to be under pressure. Iacona's going to be there to let him out here, and that's going to be kills here sitting 3-1, excuse me, in this game. TNC having heavy control so far as we move to 10.
Well, as Faye does get back into the thick of things, we will see the shrines held long enough for her to get back in action. But right now, level 10 is really what we're looking for. TNC has that slight edge, not really enough to be notable over Gul'dan's game here. But are they going, once we hit level 10, where do you think this kind of engagement sits? With the power of Sanctification to enable super, super aggressive dives, how do they respond properly? Is Maw their only real option?
Oh, hold on, though. We have a skirmish up here. Tiger JK is going to come in as well. He falls down. Jason is going to as well. 10 is now picked up here for TNC as they respond in. McIntyre trying to make it happen, forcing the sync. That was actually a pretty big value. Keep in mind that's only a 70-second cooldown, though, so it will be pretty up soon. But as to your question, how do these go? I'm going to be honest, it feels like TNC just face rolls into their opponents. The best case scenario is they use Void properly after Sanctification. Sanctification hits, they bait the engage, they Void, and then they get some kind of counter response with the massive amount of control that Gul'dan's game has on their side. That is 100% banking on the fact that Iacona just does not get blown to smithereens.
Do you like the idea of Stim Drone on Thrall, or are there too many stuns that would slow that down?
I almost feel like he needs the survivability. I mean, that seems really sad to say of Medivac. He can't die. He has to pop it. Yeah, he's going to be using it. It will help with this post 20 as well. Good job there, Saray being able to dodge that. But it helps his late game as well, right? The rotations they're going to be able to get. But realistically, I think a majority of it is just he cannot get one shot, and that will give him at least 2 seconds of longer survivability.
Alrighty, well, we got back-to-back Dragons here for TNC. Zeratul waiting in the back. McIntyre has that VP at the ready, but Tiger JK on the Uther, scouting him out and revealing him. Some eyes on big combo. Thrall goes down in an instant.
And that's going to be a reset as well for Go for the Throw. He's going to be looking to try and get more value with that as Buds moves aggressively. Dragon Knight knocking onto the fort. It will be falling down here and securing a level lead. I expect TNC to be moving out, getting as much map pressure as they possibly can. I mean, with Dragonshire, you don't need to necessarily have the most dominant team fighting composition as long as you can just constantly keep up that pressure and the rotations here, which they've done so clearly. Now backing out, see if they're going to be able to pick up their camp. They will. Very heads-up play and just constant pressure so far from TNC.
Yeah, Max just trying to find that window. Really hasn't seen it just yet. Going around the backside, could line up a big VP in the back. That's going to be Uther locked in. All the damage coming through. Sanctification buying the time needed, though. The kills now coming in for TNC, but a 3-man Maw, the stun onto Saray, who's in an awkward position. He does go down, and TNC with that beautiful Sanctification takes a clean team fight versus Gul'dan's game.
Jason trying to withdraw. He will end up surviving the situation. And I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think these team fights are going to change. Divine Shield was not even used in that type of situation. And unless they bait Sanctification to get popped early and use the Void and all the Maw and everything as a response afterwards, right? Because we saw it. They open with the Void Prison and they go, all right, time to turn it up to 11 because we can just Sanctification on top of ourselves. We aren't worried about dying in the middle of that Void, and they just have such an aggressive composition. So Mac, man, he's got to play out of his mind. And, I mean, he finds a pick here on the bottom half. Buds cannot survive this. He has the Vorpal Blade. He will be going down.
Well, that's a nice win for them here. This brings Gul'dan's game back into the experience game a little bit. That's going to narrow that gap. They are down to level and a half still, but they got a mercenary camp, and that'll enable them small pressure in the bottom. If they can pick up a tower to 2, we see this top left tower is also weak. That's experience that will help them get that level 13 and even things out. Once again, Mac looking around the mercenary camps, but realizing with the Tyrael there, scouting him out, has to back away.
Yeah, and it was a nice moment there for Gul'dan's game, getting that pick off here. You see them trying to abuse this downtime and the man advantage as best as they possibly can. And it's good for them. They managed to get the 13th tier before the next Shrine phase, which they have been struggling in so heavily. And they might be able to out-rotate their opponents. McIntyre could get a bait and a pick somewhere as well. Goku under a bit of pressure here. Good job with the Feral Heart on Jason. Just going to get the harass and move out.
Yeah, but the heals are there in time to make sure not enough threat for the Tyrael. Bottom lane going to be controlled here by TNC. And everyone rotating up to the top side on Gul'dan's game to clean up the mercs and grab themselves the Shrine. Now that level 13's on the table, we've seen the mercenary camps. You talked about the medic used for a defensive precaution. Can it ever be used to try to catch them off guard and engage if they do overextend? Not really?
Not
no?
really, no. Because the minute that happens, they just go, Saints, let's fight, boys. Like, it's just, there is no dream situation. Ideal, aggressive medevac is using it after you've got to pick securing more kills. That is an absurdly optimistic perspective, but that could be something that is used. Outside of that, it's going to be completely defensively or post-20 securing a Dragon Knight.
Well, right now, just both teams posturing around each other. TNC have that upper hand with a 2-level lead right now. 14 now just being picked up for Gul'dan's game, but they are still behind. And Iacona caught a bit out of position. His team is rotating in, but caught by a 2-man carrying combo. And even with the VP, the Greymane gets the kill on Thrall before Sundering can even be thought about. Now it's a 4v5. TNC with the great body blocks on Srei. I mean, they're just taking this away.
I have seen no reason why it's going to stop, to be completely blunt. Like, they have the comp to just face roll into their opponents, and they have so many targets they can look towards, right? It's not like you have a beefy front line or a back line that's going to be, or excuse me, like a mid-tier bruiser that they're going to be worried about. You have Johanna, you've got Thrall, who has survivability if he's able to get the engage onto your opponents, but outside of that, they don't have the case. Goku going in for the 1v3. We do see Justine coming down as well to help deny that, and they're going to be picking up a Dragon Knight with Greymane in the middle lane. 16 tier advantage. I expect them to be knocking on a keep gate at this point, opening up the map as best as they possibly can. Because really, TNC, they should be looking for their win condition, not even risking the 20 opportunity we've been talking about. Like, for instance, we saw with Gale Force versus Fox. You know, they had to lead the whole game, took one bad fight. Fox ends up pulling ahead in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, Gul'dan's game, everyone thought they were one of the top 2 favorites in this group. They fell to Vox and Healy in the winner's side. And now here in the lower bracket, we see, well, not only a 2-level lead, but 10 kills to 3 with this very aggressive composition. The third Dragon Knight knocking on this bottom lane's door, has taken out one of the 2 towers, and the keep will sustain some damage, but it's really on Gul'dan's game to do their very best to keep this keep alive. If they lose it, it opens them up, makes them even more vulnerable for the rest of the game.
Yeah, if I'm TNC right now, I'd like to see them worry about mid-keep for wall rather than going for this keep. This is a bit of a risky situation for them. I guess they do have the Sanctification providing breathing room, but one of the few team fights that they may be able to get over their opponents, even though they have 16 tier advantage.
Johanna is so far out of position right now, but they're not going to actually capitalize on it, even with that nice punt. They realize that it's still a bit risky. The bird charge and the dive in forward, looking for the kill, but the Sundering buying the space for Jason to retreat. The VP is on point. Johanna in position to get some body blocks in here, and if they can pick up that Kerrigan, they're going to look nice, but Srei is just being focused down while the rest of his team just backed away, not feeling confident enough to go toe-to-toe in this fight. The single-man maw on Goku, enabling the rest of the team to just dive on forward, and with that Sanctification, this keep will fall.
Yeah, you can tell that the team was very much not in the same page at all, but now they're actually in pursuit here. They did lose their keep, but Justin looks like he's going to be under pressure here, trying to get away as best he can in the 4v4 chase for the time being. The dismount. No. McIntyre confirms 1 kill. Hanwin will be losing his life as well, getting damage into Iacona, but shouldn't cost him his life. Really good job there from Gul'dan's game. They now have a moment, but let's be honest here, with all the forts are up, they don't have that big of a lead. Nobody's going to be able to tank. Really good cleanse from Iacona in that fight, being able to turn it, but one thing I really want to point out is that Fate did not maw outside of that void in not a single target, allowing Srei to pretty much just die. Her positioning, she waited very, very late before she was able to use it here. So again, showing that maybe Gul'dan's game doesn't understand what they want to do with this style of composition. And using the heroic later, it was just a bit confusing on how they were going to approach that fight.
Well, right now, Gul'dan's game is just trying to think of whatever they can possibly do to crawl themselves back into this. They finally got a fort. They just took an offensive mercenary camp, burst their opponents, and Srei is safely soaking and taking out the wall in the mid lane. That's going to catch them up in terms of experience, but having a keep down is a big detriment for the remainder of game 1.
Yeah, and that fight for TNC was so nice, even though they did get the keep and they went 1-for-1 and then losing a couple more people, but the death timer is still short enough into this match that taking the keep there without the Dragon Knight phase being up is a really great spot for them. Again, they're going to be able to try and control this phase. This is where Gul'dan's game has to make something happen. Their opponents are going to be winning the race to 20 quite convincingly here. They have dominance all over the map, and when they keep down, the probability of them getting a Dragon Knight only increases. So really, they need to get a pick somewhere on the map. I love this positioning from them. Obviously, it's not nowhere near their opponents yet, but they need to get exactly that. Somebody makes the poor rotation, they get the pick.
Yeah, I feel like if they can somehow get the chain stun onto Tyrael, deny him the Sanctification early, maybe it's just the Sundering Blessed Shield combo and a quick blow up. That's their biggest chance of denying this team fight on the side of TNC. But so far, Goku has been landing those sanctifications, enabling his team to make those plays happen. Right now, just some light damage, some light poke going across. There is a mercenary camp with the catapults in the bottom lane for TNC that does have to be responded to.
Yeah, and that is part of the reason why it's just so hard for them to be able to deal with the Dragon Knight during these phases, because they have the keep down now and the lane that has an actual shrine, which is going to provide not only more vision but pressure on the map for TNC. The race to 20, they're getting very, very close now. Going to be 19.5 as this finishes. To be completely honest, I feel like what's going to happen at this point is they're going to hit the 20 spike. You're going to see Gul'dan's game get a little bit desperate, and this is going to lead to a 20 into 19 fight that they just can't handle. They couldn't handle any fight so far, but with one of the second biggest power spike in the game and potentially game-losing Dragon Knight, I feel like they're going to panic here.
Well, Gul'dan's game is scattering around, looking for signs of anyone, but everyone on the side of TNC has rotated, realizing they don't need to fight until they have 20. There's no benefit whatsoever. They're going to back away, play Ring Around the Rosie, go grab themselves the bottom shrine while the top shrine is taken here by Stray.
Yeah, it's very patient play here coming out from TNC. I can definitely respect how they're approaching this. They see people on the bottom half of the map, and the fact that Gul'dan's game didn't even try and force that fight as well. They realize that they're in such a rough spot, but they aren't willing to make the desperate play.
Mac is
now they're moving
though.
aggressively. They know their opponents are about to get 20. They're going to be able to get this shrine. It will help them with the Dragon Knight. So right now, TNC's got the lead, but they've been playing so safe trying to get 20 that Gul'dan's game has the upper rotation right now.
The upper rotation, both trying to control. They're looking for the fight without 20, and the Dragon has picked up great peel there from everyone on the side of Gul'dan's game. Now that Jason has this extra health pool, all it's really going to do is enable them to try to get 20, but the thing is, they don't necessarily have the same team fight capability, especially now that 20 is here. So you'd think this Dragon would be enabling them, but honestly, it's TNC that's putting the pressure on this bottom lane.
Yeah, and Stray ended up using Blessed Shield to try and dismount their opponents, and they weren't able to get it. Now, Iacona ends up getting comboed there, denied by McIntyre. Sanctification outside of the Void here. They're moving in, though. Iacona under the pressure does have the medevac, but that's going to be a 3-man Maw.
That Maw was absolutely essential in keeping Kona alive and keeping the Dream alive here. We see the Dragon has been dropped to bring Jason back, in the Sundering on How in the back, not quite confirming the kill, but they got Tyrael. He's down and out. Divine Shield just trying to keep carrying up, but the combo from Stray in the back line, pulling them down. The go for the throat, not quite getting enough value. Bud's gonna go down here to McIntyre, Zeratul, and Stray finishing him off, and just Tiger JK remaining. Gul'dan's game stays alive.
Yeah, and this is where they have to capitalize. Also, shout out to Iacona using the medevac to dodge Tyrael's passive in that team fight, allowing him to survive. He intentionally suicided, expecting to be able to get the kill, and then baited him with the medevac, but this is the moment where they need to be aggressive. Expect a sidewall play here. They 100% need to confirm minimum of a keep. So let's talk about core potential. Medevac, and honestly, just Iacona overall is one of the best healers in the game when it comes to damage. We do have the passive coming out from Stray. Tiger JK has very limited ability to deny this. Void Prism won't be up quite yet. Medevac's really the only thing.
They're going for
it. They have to.
Yeah.
This is one of their only win conditions. Completely ignore Tiger JK. There's no reason to be onto him, and then move on. All in the core. This is going to be risky, though, Jake.
About 2 seconds till Tyrael is up. He does have Sync, but that doesn't necessarily work on the core, unfortunately. Tyrael is going to do his best to stall out as long as he can. They are splitting focus, as you mentioned, but now everyone going back on for the core, down to just 60% of its hit points, but adjusting in. Burrow Charge on Faye, looking for the focus, the Impale, but Mac is going uncontested in the back, blinking down. Now has been taken care of. Only 5% remains. They have done it. Gul'dan's game turns it around.
Very heads-up play there at the end, but I mean, that game, complete control from TNC for the most part. Really solid understanding, though, realizing that they have to make those desperate plays towards the end of that matchup. They took the only fight, really, TNC took the only fight that they could lose the game on, and it was a beautiful job seeing Gul'dan's game be able to capitalize completely on it. But I mean, we're going to have to see what our panel has to say about that last and pretty ridiculous match.
Thank you very much, guys. It looks like Gul'dan's game able to take Dragonshire to start out this series, but let's be honest, it was a rocky road for them to take that victory, Dunk.
A rocky road was the least of their concerns. There were cliffs and spikes and stalactites, and it was a disaster zone, but somehow they managed it in that last team fight. So these replays from the beginning are pretty much the story of Vox crushing Gul'dan's game. Pretty much every fight, it's like either a 1-for-1 trade or Vox nearly comes out way ahead. And you can see they get further and further and further ahead as the game progresses. Look at this fight. It looks so good with the Sunder and the VP isolating, but the Sync just turns it around, so even with a huge Maw, they can't get anything done.
Yeah, the first sanctification that we saw, maybe not quite where you wanted to use it, but here was really perfect to help keep the people alive. But as we'll get further and further on, that one fight down in the bottom lane, they're going to jump in here, quickly eliminate, and again, Goku by himself, able to zone the rest of Gul'dan's game away. Goku was doing serious work, but this was the fight.
So in this fight, it's absolutely unbelievable. We saw Medic survive because the Void Prison actually made the Medic go into stasis while the Kerrigan stun popped up. So instead of Medic getting comboed, which he didn't dodge, he got comboed, but right before he would have got stunned, VP comes up, he goes into stasis, the Kerrigan stun goes off, and then when the VP drops, Sank had already almost timed out. Medic gets to walk away, Tyrael gets baited into following, goes into medevac, survives, and somehow Vox Nihili lost a 5v4 20-19 team fight.
Yeah, tunnel visioning a little bit there for sure, thinking that they could take out the Morales. I went in, Tyrael was like, okay, I'll at least get with my trait. No, medevac was still available, and he jumped out of that, being there safely for the push to end.
Well, this series is already kind of making waves, not only in terms of the result for our first game and the map, but also our second map is Infernal Shrines, which we haven't seen during this entire tournament.
How weird is that?
Yeah. I mean, this day as a whole has been kind of weird, so I'm not surprised we're going to more things that are slightly weird, but I'm happy to see Infernal Shrines. We've already seen Kerrigan kind of rise to power across all the other maps, but this is definitely her stomping ground.
Absolutely. The fact that McIntyre is going to get to play in Infernal Shrines means you just can't leave Kerrigan up. It's not an option. So you're going to need to draft around that. And Vox Nihili has to go into this game knowing they need to draft around that.
Yeah, and that means since it was the pick for Vox, they'll be second pick. So that does enable Gul'dan's game to leave up whatever they want to ban out. They get their pick of the litter, if you will, because they know that there's no way that TNC can let Kerrigan go through for Mac.
Absolutely, absolutely. TNC is, oh man, they have to be feeling so bad after losing that game. They were just crushing.
Yeah,
and
they were in the driver's
seat. It was
seat.
just a disaster. So Gul'dan's game breathing a huge sigh of relief. And the fact that they get the advantage in the draft phase. I mean, we saw that draft. It looked really bad by Gul'dan's game. And they won the game by the skin of their teeth. It was unbelievable, mostly because of the way TNC handled the very end of the game. But now Gul'dan's game gets to reset, refocus, and they have that draft advantage of the whole McIntyre, Kerrigan, Infernal Shrines thing. So if they play that to their advantage and have a plan going into this draft, it could definitely be in their favor.
And nerves build up a lot for TNC at this point because they knew that they had it in the bag. The draft was fantastic. They were controlling that game pretty much from the very, very start.
Yeah.
But that one fight where they weren't able to win down Storm Talents and 4v5, that's going to come back to haunt them. I don't know how you put that out of your mind, but you have to.
I hate to be the negative Nancy and the naysayer here, but the thing is that for Gul'dan's game is that the two games that they have won throughout the day have been very close to the opposing team winning. First, it was Vox Nihili almost getting close with that Gus, which now on towers, and then TNC just now kind of not eking that out. With some good decision making from GDG to actually drop the Dragon Knight over the other side, etc. Make sure, of course, to join social media as well with the hashtag HGC. Tweet us with @ESL Heroes as well as @Heroes Esports to tell us what you think of these games so far and predict who you think is going to be moving on forward. So, Infernal Shrines, we're expecting Kerrigan ban, no doubt, as we're almost soon getting into the draft. Are you expecting anything else to come out here on Infernal Shrines specifically?
Potentially Zul, some Zul play. If they want to have that 4-man to hang out at the shrines for the fight, Zul rotate between lanes, get an early game advantage, maybe a talent tier advantage, and then rejoin back up in time to lock someone down and take them out. We'll see, but as predicted, Kerrigan had to be banned.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just had to.
Yeah.
So no surprise there, really. Although the Illidan ban as first pick for Gul'dan's game is a little bit interesting. Not something I would have expected going into this match as them as first pick to think, okay, we have to ban Illidan out. That's unusual. I mean, he hasn't seen that much play, and even when he has been playing, he hasn't seen that much success in this event.
TNC picking up Falstad here, and Gul'dan's game actually preferring Zagara in terms of lane control and then vision over the idea of the global that Falstad's able to provide. And on this map, on Infernal Shrines, that global is quite valuable when it comes to cleaning up a wave and then later on joining a shrine, things like that.
It's also one of TNC's most played heroes, favorite heroes for sure, and one that they often first pick on Shrine. So it makes sense that we're going to grab that and Sonya too to help with the clear of the Shrines. Of course, have another beefy body up in front too, and they've got 2 good damage dealers going into this next set.
Sonya on the Shrines is sweet. One of my favorite interactions to see, like outside the Kerrigan, Sonya's just one of those characters that she gets to sit on Shrine and nobody really wants to go 1v1 her. You just can't stand up to her in a brawl.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out a way to deal with this Shrine that doesn't involve having someone 1v1 Sonya, because it just doesn't happen.
It's so much extra healing from Whirlwind, never mind everything else that's going on in that interaction.
Especially with the buffs that just happened to Whirlwind, and we've seen more Whirlwind builds, so that could be a huge amount of sustain. The one way I've seen people contest this that I really like is Diablo. We've seen this from the Chinese teams especially, using Diablo to counter a Sonya on the point, and I would really like to see that come out of Gul'dan's game. Although the Tyrael, safe pick.
But we've seen some Tyrael Diablo before.
Yeah.
Sanctification, a little lightning breath, lots of damage. Maybe that's what they're going for here.
It could be, but I'm a little concerned they picked up the Rhaegar there instead of the Greymane. I feel like if you already have the Zagara to deal with waves, then the Greymane is just the optimal choice to go with the Rhaegar the Tyrael Sanctification instead of the Rhaegar in that slot. And then it does get banned out by Team Name Change, who then picks Monk early when Uther is still available. We have not seen that yet this tournament.
No, we haven't. I'm wondering what they're going to end up doing with that. Maybe they're wanting to for zone potential with a 7-sided, if anybody's just kind of step up to them and try and deal with it.
Maybe they do anticipate a double warrior composition.
Maybe.
For sure with that. They are going to grab another warrior of their own, or at least the first, depending on where you stand with Sonya. But Johanna will be there too, so another wave clear hero, one who can rotate between lanes, pull in. Of course, Niantic Pawn does not do more damage to the monsters, but can still pull them in to make it easier to take them out.
Hello, Iacona. How are you doing?
The eyes of a champion right there.
The Eye of the Tiger there, coming in from Iacona. Now, we keep talking about 7-sided strike, I feel like, on the panel, and then every time they take Palm. And as much as I would like to give credit to the support players, it hasn't been impressive at this event at all.
It's been rubbish.
I will even raise you.
What?
I heard from Super League that in Korea, if they pick Karzim, it's 7-sided strike. If you want to take Palm, just pick Uther. Get Divine Shield instead. That's what I have heard, at least.
Right.
Makes total sense to me. Makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the European region myself and seeing how well we're able to execute palms, you know, I normally don't toot the horn of Europe too much, but we are good at it. Here, it's not so good. I would much rather see 7-sided here as a utility.
What world is this? We have Johanna Leoric back together. Well, not together, but on Shrines here.
Thankfully,
it's like months ago.
Thankfully, not that crazy 8-month-ago wave clear fiesta that we had, because that was interesting.
Did you say fiesta or fiasco?
Fiesta.
I like that better.
Fiesta Asco?
Yeah, that one.
Fiasto? Anyway, Leoric makes sense here if you want that dual warrior composition, but picking it into the already shown Sonya, good against Leoric, plus Karazim 7-sided strike potential, it seems a little questionable to me to pick up the Leoric there. Li Ming, excellent follow-up. We've talked about this before, and then Team Name Change rounding out with Sylvanas. Amazing on this map, gets so much value out of the Punishers.
And a lot of times you want to make sure that you have good shrine clears along with her, so you don't pick up Sylvanas and then never win a shrine.
Yeah.
They have Falstad and Sonya to go along with that. I'm liking the look of this draft.
I feel like if this had happened yesterday, if we'd have ended up on Infernal Shrines yesterday with the teams that we had, we would have ended up having Zul, because they did exhibit a little bit on Tomb of the Spider Queen as well, and etc. But no, nobody wants the Zul. Gilly, you an unhappy panda? I would have liked to have seen Zul as well.
Yeah, especially after some fantastic Zul play from Fan yesterday.
Yeah.
He had some awesome Zul plays, but maybe these teams not feeling as comfortable with him. Instead, what is he? Double-ish warrior for both teams.
Double-ish warrior is pretty much right. I mean, Sonya, the ish warrior. Leoric Tyrael. Leoric Tyrael doesn't really strike me as like the go-to double warrior composition.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think Entomb has some strong utility if you're able to, like, I mean, you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're able to get a good entomb on someone, some of the shrines are very narrow to escape from, you can get entombed in there and maybe trapped for a while. Is that one way?
Well, there's a lot of escape on TNC's side. Falstad can barrel roll out. Karzim Radiant dashes to a teammate. Johanna is one potential to catch. Sylvanas can use Haunting Wave. It comes down to Sonya maybe, but if she gets Mystical Spirit 13, then she no longer is a target. You can get over it.
Exactly, and even on the shrine before 13, you can Q minion potentially if you're near the actual shrine.
So, if they do go Entomb, are we, well, to use a word I previously just used, is Leoric rubbish here?
Before, when we would see in Europe, Leoric picked up, it was Leo plus Falstad. You entomb and then gust everyone else away. But Falstad's on the other side too. If there is a good entomb of someone who can't get away, then you still also have the potential to gust the team away. So I'm very curious as to the plan here.
The Leoric entomb plan seems a little optimistic. All things considered, it seems a little optimistic. The only target you have, Johanna, Gust has to be down. You have to have damage in range to actually kill a Johanna. It's not like Leoric solos Johanna and Entomb, at least until 20, maybe, when you get that 5% life leech, which is just so amazing.
Oh, well, we'll see how it goes. Overall, if you're looking at the drafts for TNC and GDG, who do you think has come out on top? Is there any particular preference here on either side?
Again, I would say TNC. They have good heroes to be able to clear out the shrines. They have Disengage with Gust. I don't see the synergy as we talked about, but again, we liked TNC's draft last time, and GGG were still able to barely pull it out.
I'm not sure that, you're right. They did pull it out. They did pull it out. Credit where it's due. They figured out their win condition and went for it. This game, I still have to go with TNC. Yeah. They looked better all throughout the game, and their draft looks better.
Dunk, if you thought TNC threw the previous game, you can say it. It's all right. No? You're just going to smile at me?
I don't want to be mean.
You can be mean. You're next to me. I'll back you up. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
All right, wonderful. So going into this game, really, we have to look at maybe Goku's Falstad to make sure his team doesn't get engaged on poorly.
Yes.
Right? We talked about this, Gus, and how important it is as a disengage.
Yeah.
Yep, I would echo that sentiment. I'll be watching out for some Leo plays too, maybe.
Watch out for the Leo players. Watch out for that Wraith. All right, let's get into it. It is going to be game number 2. We're sending you over to Jake and Dread for the commentary.
Thanks so much, guys. We're going into game 2, where Gul'dan's game have that 1-0 lead. Dread, how are you feeling about these comps? They're saying TNC. What about you?
I think I agree. For the most part, they have a very generic composition. It's not so much even that I feel like theirs is insane in any way, shape, or form, just more so the synergy, again, when it comes down to the Leoric, the ability to kind of blow them up is, I think, what they were hoping to get. But maybe they have a trick up their sleeve here. I mean, they managed to pull out that last game out of what seems like a hat at some point. It was so far behind the entire match, and then turning it around.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, maybe this will be a little bit more even in the early parts of the game. We'll find out. Both teams vying for control of the mid lane right now. Zagara doing her very best to get some creeps through it. This game, it's going to be Jason playing that Zagara. We'll see how we can do as they are making those adjustments, putting Faye on the Li Ming, I believe. You know, other things here is just both teams are running that double warrior. Coming into this tournament, a lot of the players were talking about the rise of the double warrior meta, but it hasn't exactly been super prominent today.
Yeah, it hasn't been nearly as prominent as it's been in kind of some of the other regions here. And I like the fact that it isn't, honestly. I think it's a very safe strategy, but I don't think it's necessarily always the most optimal, especially on certain maps like Infernal Shrines. I feel like you can get away with a different approach with Sonya, how valuable she can be, Kerrigan. Thrall is not bad by any means, but he is alright. So I like the fact that it hasn't been like the must-have that we kind of see in the European scene for the most part. But when it comes to this game so far, it's really just kind of a 1-4 here for TNC, while we see the heavy rotation to the upper half, maybe trying to get a pick there. Leoric in Sonya lane, pretty boring for the most part. It's just wave clear all day.
Yeah, McIntyre, though, barely getting out of that as the rotation did come up his way. Just great response there with the Wraith Walk, tapping the wall, getting ready for the first shrine. As mentioned, both teams will have those double warriors vying for control of the forward positions in each of the shrines, looking for those last hits. I mean, notably, you do have Smite and Scale to swing there for Gul'dan's game, but Night Takes Spawn and Whirlwind in general also going to be very good for picking up those last hits on these skeletal defenders.
Yeah, and we'll see how well Jason's able to try and get value out of those banelings, possibly to get the clear as we see him using his Q there. That's something that is new with kind of the new build that you can build onto the Zagara, maybe using it as a better clear system because you don't have to burn all 4 at once, risk your positioning, right? Be able to throw that out. But Justin moves in very aggressively, takes a large amount of damage, and Tiger is as well. Both of them in the retreat. That is going to be a double kill here already for Gul'dan's game.
And you know what? Usually we see Wraithwalk used defensively, but Max saw that window. He went in past everyone, got right in the front, made sure they could pick up that double kill, and they're going to be sitting in such a big advantage position. 2 kills, they're going to have that first Punisher here in the center lane, and they're holding on to that last one, now finally picking it up.
And Jason might be putting up a pretty solid argument. We'll see as this moves on when it comes to the Shrine control, because I was giving a lot of value towards Johanna Sonya, specifically the Sonya, on the amount of Shrine control that it provides. And what that is on this map is a lot of people just undervalue the fact that you need to make sure that you win the Shrines as well as have decent laning. And if he is able to clear a lot with that level 1 talent that we see him picking up with the Volatile Acid and getting a little bit of that singular poke, I mean, maybe Zagara is like a whole new threat on this map. I haven't even gotten to see that, sadly enough, since we haven't gotten Infernal Shrines.
Right, well, you know, the new Zagara has a lot of tricks to be figured out still for everyone, as the builds have been, you know, pretty consistent for the most part. But of course, with this map not being played at all this weekend, some more things being unveiled. Medusa plays at level 4 for Zagara has been pretty much the norm for this entire event. And that's going to give him just so much presence when it comes to fighting with the Shrines.
Yeah, and at level 7 on Leoric, we actually see him going for the range of Skeletal Swings, so we'll see if he pairs that. What heroic he decides to pair that with, really.
Do you think there's a chance for March?
We were talking about like the getting the Entomb in the mass like dream situation.
Right.
I honestly don't know. The double zone, it could be a really kind of cheeky play that they could get away with. But at 7, if you do take the increased range, it increases the chances that you can get away with a very big value of March, because having multiple targets load at a max range is really ideal for him. I'm not saying it's a must-have and that's what he's going to be going, but it is an opportunity now with that picked up.
Okay, well, you know, we do see Mac has taken a good bit of damage, has to be wary of all the DPS output there in the top lane. But all things considered, even with that first Punisher being picked up, you know, the experience is pretty even. The 2 towers that went down have netted that half-level lead for Gul'dan's game, but there's still plenty of room. We will have another Shrine spawn before level 10 is in play.
The Zealotry there picked up by Saray at level 7, meaning that he's going to have a large amount of shields to be able to keep his team up with that double tank and move aggressively into his opponents here. I love this build that he's got going on. It's one of my favorites to run. Very support-esque Tyrael. With Unless You Die, then obviously having the ability to dive into your opponents. But we've already seen Gul'dan's game has secured themselves a full level lead. Or half-level lead, excuse me. I guess they missed a wave on the bottom half. There we go.
Yeah, they're just picking that up and making their way on up. Falstad going to utilize that global presence, stay soak one more lane of minions and push the mercenaries out here in the mid lane. That's Goku just trying to flex the trait there with his flight. But he does need to go up there quickly as they're being bullied off the shrine. And already 15 Skeletal Defenders have been picked up here on the side of Gul'dan's game. You know, if they sacrifice this Punisher by leaving Falstad down in bottom, do you think it's worthwhile?
It's going to put them in a really bad spot, largely because of the level 20 advantage. We do see Goku actually making his way to the upper lane. Faye taking a decent amount of damage from the Lightning Rod. Not going to hit the... really, yeah, it was a really good dodge on the the orb there from Faye.
But it just seems like he was there so late, he wasn't able to apply the damage. Johanna was completely bullied out of the fight from that front line due to the DPS output in that 4v5 scenario, and now we have another Punisher. Although the soak in mid will keep it quite even for the level 10 pickup, this is going to enable the hard engage here from Gul'dan's game, and they're looking for it. 10 is here, they have that nice window, and they're forcing them behind the fort. This should be the first fort down of the game.
And that is March of the Black King is the choice here for the Leoric there. So with that level 7, if he hits a large amount of targets with the Q, he'll be in a really good spot.
That's a 3-man leave actually going in here, forcing them all back. Wraithwalk, or Hunting Wave had to be used there, and the fort ends up collapsing. Leo is just keeping pace. He's keeping tabs on Falstad, making sure he's not getting this big advantage in the soak, and just picture perfect so far from Gul'dan's game.
Yeah, Falstad usually gains value when there is no Zul, in the sense that nobody can deal with the side lanes, but he kind of makes up for it with the Leoric. He doesn't have as good of wave clear, but just enough. And we see Zagara as well can make the rotations there with her Nidus network. But for now, at the full level lead here for Gul'dan's game, only a fort advantage when it comes to the structures. So pretty close to even here, and it's honestly been a pretty passive game for the most part.
So this is when Iaconum's going to go Bloodlust for
yeah,
March
this
of the Black
is it.
King,
Yeah,
right?
he's hiding the Bloodlust. The auto attacks on their team are obviously
My moment has
really
come.
big, so they're going to be, yeah, this is it. This is the dream.
All right, well, probably not. Kona just loves to hold his talents, of course. Leoric rotating on Zagara is all alone in the top lane, and that's going to put them in an odd position here, but they're going to do their very best to force them back at the very least, and Zagara does become quite the threat. Even without a keep up here, getting all that creep spread is super valuable. It's something they have to respond to, and that lane will be pushed out.
I am looking forward to what Gul'dan's game is going to do when it comes to decision-making over the next Shrine phase. Goku is actually going to isolate there with an aggressive Gus onto Faye, and she will be removed rather quickly here. But again, when it comes to the control over the shrines, because Leoric doesn't have the best clear, neither does, Tyrael. Rhaegar can complement them pretty well, but I wonder if she's going to be more concentrated on getting that split push, or if she'll kind of join in and get the value out of that little Q and the new system that she has built to make sure their team wins every one of the shrines. McIntyre actually missing his Drain Hope. That's going to hurt them a bit when it comes to the team fight, and that's a cooldown we got to look for in these team fights, because it's a lot of the value that Leoric brings to a team fight outside of March.
Okay, Goku has found the bottom Nidus network here and cleaning that up. Nidus still exists in the top lane and the mid lane. But considering they're here in the bottom, he's got all the coverage he needs. That gives them the mobility across the map. Level 13 will be hit first here on the side of Gul'dan's game, and once more, they're controlling the shrine first. Already up to 15 here just about as they clean up the rest of those skeletal defenders. All the ultimates are at the ready. But you just see everyone on the side of TNC playing so very patient and back, and they're just taking a lot of damage as a result.
Yeah, they are, and not only that, they're losing when it comes to that, but as we say that, Goku's going to hit the format Gus, a huge sanctification onto everybody, and the Ancestral's going to land, Jake.
Beautifully done, but Faye is low, blinking on into Goku, trying to get the kill. He's the one that goes down, and the Palm placed on Goku, but will not be activated. So Divine Palm not quite going off here. Does not matter with that Gust. Even the sanctification not enough to save the team of Gul'dan's game. McIntyre, the last man on the point, was looking to get enough skeletal defenders to pick up that Punisher, but unable to do so. Finally, TNC will have themselves a map objective.
And that was at the last second possible, with 33 skeletal defenders already picked for Gul'dan's game. And to show you like how big of a play that was on the side of Goku, that was almost max value Ancestral and Sanctification. It still didn't matter. It was just absolute slaughterhouse after that hit, so very well done from Goku, allowing his team to pick up that Punisher.
All right, well, this is going to even things out. Actually, TNC taking the experience lead for the first time in this game. Jason flexing that global presence with the Nidus network, but needs to be here for the defense in the bottom lane. You see him hopping on into the Nidus and getting ready to rotate down as he places that, going back to the Nidus at the base. So right now, the Punisher threatening the keep wall for the very first time. Can they get the keep? Unlikely, but can they at least force the position and force him to deny the global XP? I think so.
Yeah, they do get the bait over the wall there, so it's going to be removed rather quickly. No follow-up, even though they did concentrate onto the side wall. Falstad now pressuring towards mid. Everyone going to make a rotation. This will be... it's going to be the mid four falling down as well. 15 is going to be secured here for TNC, doing very well in this matchup. And one thing I've been curious about that we've seen a lot here today is a lot of Nidus network without abusing the split pushing. I've been very confused kind of when it comes to the decision making, right?
It looks pretty good this game.
Though team fights are not going in their favor, like in that last one, for instance, this is such a chokehold oriented map where Ma can gain a large amount of value, and very rarely are they going, all right, we're going to stay on the shrine for a bit, Zag split push, okay, join the fight, right? Yeah. We only saw that one time yesterday, but Nidus Network has been the go-to across the board for NA so far.
At least in the larger maps, yeah, we've seen a lot of it, that's for sure, and it's not even just like one player, but many. So we'll have to see if in the end that will pay off here for this team of Gul'dan's game. Look how even the votes are. TNC earning themselves a lot of fans for sure. But seriously though, if, like you mentioned, if Zagara had Ma on that team fight where the guns came through...
I'm not saying that you cannot play Nidus Network by any means. That's not where I'm going with it. I question whether or not there's been like some kind of sense of that nobody feels like Ma gains the value. Obviously, it's been adjusted quite a bit, doesn't do near the damage that it would, but it still is a very valuable teamfight resource, right?
Well, now we have that 16-tier advantage in favor of TNC, and Gul'dan's game is playing very safe, doing their best to just rotate around, make sure they soak up that XP, waiting for level 16, in hopes of having it before the next spawn.
They are going to try and make that happen, and they'll be able to get it here with 30 seconds remaining. Falstad clearing up everything. Nidus has really no really bold positioning when it comes to the Nidus network, so we can't expect Jason to maybe make some crazy moves here and there for the time being. Shrine's going to be spawning in the middle. Mid 4 is down for the side of Gul'dan's game, whereas TNC has theirs up, so at least a little bit more and the Welt. That's a really good point to bring up. And so we'll see if they're going to be able to handle it in this skirmish, Jake.
Well, you know, for the first time, TNC, they're the ones on the point, but 16 has just been reached here just in time for Gul'dan's game. Looking for the point, Justin taking a lot of damage, and with McIntyre in the front, he's getting very aggressive. Moving forward, but Goku threatening with that Mighty Gust is quite scary. Iron's getting used at the last moment to keep alive. Sray will not be able to get the ancestral time in the explosion of that Tyrael. Not quite enough for the kill. The rest of the team still able to fight as many members of TNC have that low health bar, but with a 3-man silence there, we're looking for that Mighty Gust. Still at the right, excuse me, not ready for a Falstad. Did use it already. Oh, excuse me there.
Yeah, March of the Black King coming out, not getting too much value as well, so that will be a 2-0 trade on the side of TNC, and a really good use of Gust once again coming out from Goku, splitting McIntyre, because you know that Leoric wants to gain as much value as possible. Like, if anybody's gonna die, it's gonna be him, right? But by splitting the Tyrael there, they were able to get it before the Sanctification went off, so he wasn't able to survive, and that Leoric was not the target, just suiciding, getting that free value. So really good isolation and focus fire from the side of TNC in this game.
Back-to-back Punishers enabling themselves to really just get aggressive look for the first keep. This time they actually have that kill potential, especially when you consider Sylvanas at their side. Gonna lock down all of these structures and get that Immortal in there very safely. The first leap doesn't go as deep as they might have liked on the side of Gul'dan's game to focus this Punisher safely. And Goku now gusting from above after barrel rolling over the wall. But a beautiful Ancestral keeping Jason alive. Is it enough? He doesn't have that Maul to really threaten. He's just gonna be able to lob out the Banelings and apply some nice damage from afar. Yes, they will get the Immortal or the Punisher down here, but this keep is still standing. Sylvanas looking to do her best, but McIntyre getting very aggressive. I haven't seen a single March of the Black King actually do a whole lot in this game, though.
Because the teamfights aren't really playing out, I think, how they expected, right? Like, nobody's funneling for TNC. They're the ones going, okay, we're going to Gust and we're going to force the fight, and then everybody's using their cooldowns defensively, trying to make sure that whatever Squishy got out of position by said Gust is not dying. Like, Sanctification and Ancestral Healing were both used on Jason alone, and he still almost died. They're running away. It needs to be some form of like counter engage through those chokeholds, but again, they really don't have any prep, and it's not like it's the easiest heroic to get off, especially because the amount of harass you take by overextending to get your Q to hit, even with the 7 talent, it's hard. And a lot of it comes down to, I just feel like Gul'dan's game doesn't, the teamfights are going nowhere near like, or how they expected it to. And a lot of it comes down to Goku. He's playing very, very well on the Falstad, and he's not known for his ranges too much.
Okay, McIntyre not able to get on the point in time, but so the camp does get picked up here in favor of TNC, but they're looking at the Johanna just being able to walk away. Now, we do have to mention that keeping that mid keep alive is a big deal, but it is a vulnerability still in the mid lane. There's no way for them to really fall back safely if they get pressured towards another shrine in the center. And they're looking for a fight as soon as possible, with level 20 being very, very soon. Goku is actually well aware that Jason has gone up to the top lane, wants to challenge that soak, and will be rotating down as they see the invade happening on this camp.
And I wonder, I haven't really seen any situations either. I'm guessing a lot of it comes down to the auto attacks, the fact that the insight value that we've seen on the side of Kharazim, specifically Tiger. I feel like a lot of that has to come down to, he feels like it's because of the shrines, but personally I'm not too sold on insight. I've tried it out a bit. I haven't seen him really get any moment where I was like, all right, that was the insight moment. Like, I was like, holy cow, that gained a lot of value here for them. But we'll see if he's able to do it, because they've done quite well in these teamfights, as they are 19.5.
Okay, we do have McIntyre just kind of trying to get in that forward position. Falstad can still fly in, but we do see Goku just kind of biding his time right now. As this shrine has spawned, level 20 is dangerously close on the side of TNC, and that's something that Gul'dan's game is well aware of, and keeping their eyes on Storm Talents turn things around significantly. And with that Falstad soak, it is here. Level 20 on the table for TNC. This is when they're going to turn things up. Falstad has landed some monstrous Mighty Gusts in these fights. Will he be doing it once more? The Fly is coming in, looking for the Gust. Leeming tries to blink forward, but Faye gets blown up in an instant. March of the Black King hitting nothing at all, and the Wailing Arrow just to try to be the icing on top. Even with the Ancestral going off, Iakona's gonna lose his life, and TNC is just cleaning up house.
Yeah, Jason is trying to withdraw from the team fight. So is McIntyre here, but he's gonna lose his life. Meanwhile, Sray does end up getting out of the situation. 20-tier advantage already picked up though, and with 3 people dead, this will be a shrine for sure going in their favor, and a minimum of 2 keeps.
This is tough.
The decision making here is a lot of hesitation though. You saw TNC thought, do we want to go for the keep? What do we want to do here?
They're splitting. They're leaving Sonya. They're throwing everyone to bottom. They know mid is already so vulnerable, so they're just trying to open these gates before they grab the Punisher because they're going to look for lethal with it. Falstad going forward onto Jason with that epic mount, but not able to pick up the kill. Again, Gus still on cooldown, so not able to really fully capitalize on that. And Jason is bullying them back with Sray. This split push didn't really get a lot of damage done. They did spend the fly shorter cooldown with that. Now Mighty Gus has to be spent. Going to be on cooldown for another minute. And Sonya, I do like this call to stall out on the last pickup.
Oh gosh, only to reset their health bars. I'm sorry, I'm just so torn in the sense that we watched the last game. TNC outdrafted Gul'dan's game by a large margin, dominated the whole game, make one very risky call, not necessarily on the same page, lose the game, and they almost put themselves in the exact same situation there. They really need to make sure they keep it together when they get those small leads here, because Leoric is one of the best heroes to punish you when you aren't on the same page doing the exact thing there. That should have been a keep minimum. Ideally a double keep there, and they didn't get anything out of it, which now might not be an opening, like a game-ending play unless they get multiple picks.
We'll see. The Punisher has been baited in, so they can look to focus that, but this keep is going down for certain. Level 20 still not on the table for Gul'dan's game, and we do see that Sonya's going in deep. We do see Gus just about up, ready, flying in forward, looking forward, but being patient. Goku knows he can bide his time and try to get that damage in. Justin does fall first here in this fight, disabling some of that initiation capability, but still with half the life remaining on this Punisher, the keep is losing its health bar rapidly. They're focusing on the keep, but can they defend this? They do have the hero advantage for the defense. 25% remaining on the core. Tiger JK trying to get the damage out in the back, but the ball does end up coming through. Is it enough DPS? 4% remaining. They will barely defend, but those siege camps are there. They're taking them 1% on the board for Gul'dan's game. They have a 1 minute to do as much damage as possible, but they are quite far away from being able to end this.
Yeah, they need to make sure they go through top. That's the only lane going to be available to them. The keep wall is down to turret, so that'll save them a couple shots. They'll be able to take the side wall. No, Sanctification is going to be up. I'll be honest, this is a game. They're going to be able to, oh gosh, they're going to be able to sync. So we have 21 seconds on Falstad, 18 seconds on the Sanctification. Falstad's going to spawn, and in best case scenario, he's going to instantly try and gust their opponents. He'll time the Sanctification. This should be game.
Could Falstad try to just epic mount and go for the backside? Do you think he has enough time for that?
No, no way. He can't take out the shields. He cannot take out the shields.
All right,
the mobility.
Left shield on the table right now to try to buy some time. That 1% on the core.
No synced.
The Gus comes out, yes, but we do see the big damage is coming under here. Jason gets the Sanctification at the last moment. The shields have fallen here, but the respawns one after another. Li Ming is falling early in the battle. That's the brunt of the damage.
They're double taking
lost Zagara. Justin pulling everyone in, and the defense is looking solid here. They wanted to get the turnaround. 35%, 34, but it's not going to be enough, and now we will have a victory march from TNC across the map.
I don't have words. I'm gonna be honest.
If they sank the Gus, they won. That's it.
Yeah, it was because Jason took so much damage in the mid on the keep. Keep in mind, he ate the keep damage because the Gus isolated him. Sanctification didn't come out. Nobody was stacked for it, and then they one-shot Li Ming and Zagara, the only of characters who can kill the core because they never. Oh my mind's blown. TNC.
Well, TNC have earned it. They looked good in game 1 and game 2. Nearly throwing it, but they clutch it out, and that means we're getting a game number 3 between TNC and Gul'dan's game in the first Group B elimination match.
We have made a lot of cross comparisons of North America to Europe in this event because Clerics can never drop it, but I never have seen a game more European than that one.
Well, it was 1%, not 2%.
No, I think within the last regionals, like the last 3, they've had at least one game that goes under 5% core. Just every single time. It's absolutely ridiculous, but I mean, hey, we're going to game 3 here.
Well, you know what? Overall, in this event, we've seen a lot of different styles. And Dread, now that Dragonshire has kind of, you know, come into the table, then we saw Shrines, 2 of the maps that we haven't seen a lot of today. we're going to be going to Tomb of the Spider Queen for our final series. But before we get to that, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
Time is running out. The Nexus is not ready. All my life, I have stood against the forces of darkness. I wield my power to protect the innocent. While I was not born to this realm, my duty remains. Now, I sense an approaching evil that is all too familiar. I am the Guardian Medivh, and I will fight alongside these heroes. We will face this enemy together, and together we will defeat him.
I hope you will bring more than words to this battle, Guardian.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Heroes of the Storm North American Fall Regional, as we are 1-1 in a series number 4 for the day. And it seems that I don't even need to be casting now, just my presence in is enough to cause these silly, silly 1% cores. I cannot believe. And whoop, that's quite the call. It's time to discuss this with Dunk and, of course, Gilly. That was interesting.
Interesting is a good way to explain what just happened here. I mean, Dread just called it so perfectly. The Sank versus Gust interaction right when Falstad respawned.
Yeah.
But even going back way before that in the game, Goku was playing so good with those Gusts. We saw multiple teamfights just absolutely decided where he uses Gust to get people in bad positions. He used it as an additional chain CC, so they couldn't use their own escape mechanisms. Just super well played there.
We knew that the Gust was going to be an issue for Gul'dan's game, and also March of the Black King. Entomb wasn't going to work, but we didn't really see March of the Black King get a lot for Gul'dan's game either. They did struggle with the laning, especially once they started getting a couple Punishers with the Sylvanas pick that they had.
I mean, it's very, very difficult, I suppose, for them in these situations to actually approach it when Gul'dan's game knows that their core is on 1%. They have to march over the other side and try their very, very best to try and get that core themselves. Obviously not to be the case. It's now 1-1. Every single game we've seen from Gul'dan's game in this tournament has been quite shaky. Going into game number 3, it's going to be on Tomb. There is some sense of, like, you can have a sense of control on this map. Surely they have to seize that with both hands here. Otherwise, it's going to be absolute chaos.
Gul'dan's game needs to do something because they just have not looked good in any of their matches so far. Even the games they've won have been really questionable games. So they have to do something.
And that's even started with draft. Both games, we have agreed that the drafts for TNC have looked better. And it was just with the questionable end to the first game that we're even in the position of having a game 3. So I hope that they've got their heads in the game for the drafting phase very soon.
Yeah, hopefully that will be coming up in just a little bit here so we can get into game number 3, figuring out who is moving on to play against Gale Force Esports, of course. As we mentioned, Tomb of the Spider Queen will be our map here. And I'm wondering what is going to be the case. Obviously, we've seen the Zagara preference here from Gul'dan's game be very, very high. So probably they'll end up going over to that again. So wondering if that will actually mix into the bans here. Going forward, or is Kerrigan and things like that just too much of a threat on Tomb of the Spider Queen?
Kerrigan is a huge threat on Tomb of the Spider Queen, no question. But we've seen just how amazing that Zagara is. Over and over, the team with Zagara has just gotten an early lead, gotten turn-ins, denied the enemy turn-ins, all of these things that Zagara is great at, and so much map control means, yeah, maybe your draft isn't quite as good at team fighting or something, but when you're always a level ahead, always out on the map, pushing enemies' buildings, that's a lot of advantage.
But we've seen Falstad be able to contend with that, and as long as you have some creep clearing, it's been effective for them to be able to deal with Zagara. So I'm wondering if, you know, the Nidus network in the last game, if Ma, maybe we would see them switch up, especially because the battleground is fairly small on Tomb, if they want to focus on Zag again.
Likewise, are we expecting to see a little bit higher priority on Sylvanas here? We saw it towards the end for TNC there on Infernal Shrines. Still has a lot of power with those Punishers, of course, but here it can get a lot of work done against those Web Weavers, or even with the Web Weavers.
Sylvanas definitely has extra value here. I mean, we saw how amazing it was in the last game. At the beginning of the game, Gul'dan's looked really good. They got the first 2 Punishers, so we were like, oh, okay, maybe they know something we don't. Their draft is actually doing something decent. But as soon as TNC got a Punisher, the game got way out of control. And I think you have to take that into account in this next draft, because on Tomb of the Spider Queen, Sylv gets out of control from level 1.
Both of these teams need to be so careful about this draft because there are a lot of really important picks, and you only get 1 ban before they start coming in.
Yeah.
So they have to be really considerate of all of the options, of all of their opponents' options, and try to figure out what they're going to go for, because this is it. This is elimination for one of these teams.
Yeah, very much so. Make sure to join the discussion on Twitter as well with the hashtag HGC, as well as at Heroes Esports and at ESL Heroes. Make sure to tweet us your predictions as to who you think is going to be winning this series, because it is do or die here now on Tomb of the Spider Queen. We'll be getting into the draft in just a moment here. But one thing's for sure, I mean, kind of similar to how the denial situation was yesterday, GDG are in a bit of a bad spot as TNC will open things up with Falstad in their possession.
Greymane and Kerrigan banned, so the Kerrigan was banned by Gul'dan's game even. Did not want to give that to team name change, decided they were too good with it in that first game, didn't even want to risk letting them have it, despite that would also give them Falstad. TNC, on the other hand, banning the Greymane. Their first pick, they want to force that Kerrigan-Falstad choice, and now Gul'dan's game responding with a really early Johanna.
That is an extremely early Johanna. Yes, she does provide good wave clear. Maybe they're hoping to force TNC to choose Warrior here, or they're going to try to lock them out of some Warriors?
Is it a sense of control as well? I mean, this looks a bit more stable from them in terms of like controlling the turn-in points. Johanna's a really good warrior for doing that compared to, say, again, throwing down the dice and hoping for a bit more of a more chaotic game. Is this them just trying to play a slower game here? What do you think?
Johanna definitely adds stability to your laning phase. You have the Zagara in your first rotate, so you're going to be able to get that solo laner.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. TNC responds with the Thrall, so we're going to have that really solid 1v1 matchup. And that means that Gul'dan's game with the Johanna should have some advantage in rotations as long as they get any wave clear to combo with this. The risk is that Falstad is good at pressuring the Zagara if she's ever pushing too far forward, and at the same time adds kill pressure with ETC.
And they have Thrall too, to once again sit in that solo lane versus Zagara. Well, the next ban's coming in now. Gul'dan's game can't do the lockout of Warriors by getting Johanna, as team name change did pick up ETC. they may be looking at doing something like that with supports. We haven't really seen too much of a focus on trying to lock out those roles. It's been very concerned about a lot of the damage dealers, although here they really don't want to get caught with the Divine Shield on top of a mosh pit.
Makes total sense to me. We've seen how impactful Uther has been in all of these games. Even with Kerrigan, Greymane, two of the best D-Shield targets out of the game, they're still ETC. So you're still interested in getting rid of that, and the Azmodan ban from Team Name Change doesn't want to deal with any potential Azmodan cheese. Makes total sense given the early Johanna pick by Gul'dan's game.
Precisely. So now Gul'dan's game. It's like, it's not even that, you know, you might be fearful of the Azmodan, things like that, but it's like an insurance policy. It's like, we don't want them to throw a curveball at us that we may not necessarily be able to deal with.
Faye absolutely plays Azmodan and plays Azmodan very well, and this is the best battleground for it. So yeah, good sense of what might be coming to them by TNC and Gul'dan's game. If that was their strategy, we'll have to figure out something else.
I like that Gul'dan's game also banned the Uther. So if they expected the Azmodan ban, that was a really smart thing to do. So now they can pick Rehgar and not allow Team Name Change to have one of those tier 1 comfortable supports. On the other hand, only Rehgar available. They don't really have the best ancestral targets yet. Johanna eats a lot of those heals, but she doesn't provide that much value. You really want a more bruisery damage dealer type character to get that ancestral to continue fighting and sustain damage. Whereas right now, they've only got the Johanna, so if they choose to pick that Rehgar here, Team Name Change can lock them out of the Sonya or something like that, since they already have the Thrall.
Right, thinking of the last pick, they have Li Ming, Tyrael going to be grabbed, so giving up Rehgar if TNC want that for their more bruisery type Thrall, maybe even ETC too if he goes in fairly low with his mosh pit. But Sanctification available. And again, we see Tyrael plus Johanna. I believe we saw that a bit earlier, too.
Yeah, we did. And I'm concerned Gul'dan's game is going to be kind of damage light at the moment. They have the Zagara and Li Ming, both good sustained damage dealers. But the Tyrael with Johanna, is this going to be another Falling Sword game?
Probably. Maybe. If you don't want to have to use, like, Judgment, right, for initiation, then go for that instead. Falling Sword down, use Devouring Maw, what I would hope to be, to try to isolate either people away from who you're jumping on or the targets in there, get the rest.
I guess the question is how eager are they to get onto the backline? And I guess it might also bring up the question of what healer Team Name Change are going to take, right? If we want to answer that question.
Aren't they just going to take Rehgar? It seems like, oh no, again, with the Monk picks, the Palm. It was actually pretty good last game, to be fair.
Was it?
I mean,
okay, all right.
Okay, it wasn't Bakery tier Palms, but at least they weren't embarrassing.
Oh no, Bakery's not on that train anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, it takes a while for the news to get across the pond, so I haven't caught up yet.
That's true. It took me a while to get across the pond as well. Long travel. All right, so indeed, just waiting for the last pick up here. See what's going on. I wonder if they are going to go Insight again. I think, you know, we've had this discussion actually off camera a little bit as well, and Insight is gained a little bit more traction in Europe. The numbers kind of work out similar to having the healing tunnel at level 1. So it is interesting to see. Helps out with your other cooldowns as well when you've got it fully done.
In the last game, Insight made a lot of sense. They had the Leoric, who they could target to get those consistent auto attacks. They had the Shrine minions, so it made a lot of sense to go Insight. You get that quest early, and you have targets during team fights to hit. In this game, you don't quite have so much of that, but they do pick the Jaina to provide more lockdown, burst, combo off of the ETC. Interestingly, opting for that over Kael'thas.
Right.
Team Name Change picking Jaina over Kael'thas, saying, no, Jaina's the new hot. We're going to pick her instead. And then Gul'dan's game, Medic.
Kharazim and Morales over Rehgar. It feels to me like this series has gone maybe a little off the deep end.
Hyde is definitely crying into his hands right now, looking at this draft.
Well, the interesting thing is, you know, you brought Falling Sword up earlier, and now with the Jaina on the other side, is that potentially a target that they may want to go on with that?
Falling Sword seems to me to have a lot of anti-synergy with your own medic. You really want to play Johanna as the meat shield wall for Morales in order to get value out of the healing beam, but when you Falling Sword, you go off the map, and there's the potential for the enemy to be like, oh, I guess I can just walk at Morales now. So you don't necessarily want to do that. That'd be really scary.
Okay. And then, of course, with that, how do you think TNC is going to fare against that? They've got Volstad and Thrall to try and get on towards the Morales, try and kill her off. Is it going to be easy for them to try and shut her down? I don't think so.
Thrall is so scary versus a Morales when you're the Morales player, because Sunder flanks will throw you right into the team. You can gust everybody else away, or you also have to contend with scary gusts from the opposite side of where you would want your opponents to be as a Morales. I, again, am fearful, but they won with Morales before, regardless of reasoning. So.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that game that they won that game.
He did do very well.
That's true.
Going 1v1ing a Tyrael, and this one they have Tyrael, so Sanctification Morales.
Sanctification is actually pretty good with Morales.
Yeah.
I do like that synergy because it does help protect the Morales. But the Gust and the Sundering you were talking about, both of those are huge AoEs. They have an enormous range of effect, so it's really easy to get the Tyrael and the Morales. And if you split them up with Sunder, it's so hard for your Tyrael to get back in range in time to save the healer.
All right, well, we are just waiting a moment here before we actually get into this game. It's definitely an interesting draft once again. A lot of interesting drafts throughout the whole series, as we're about to take a look at who is going to be playing what here in game number 3. This is do or die. This is the last chance for both of these teams to stay alive. Guys, I've got to ask you once again, who are we looking out for here to make the plays?
I'm going to be looking at Faye. I think that if they can keep Li-Ming alive for a long time while they slowly poke down the team to the point that she starts to get those resets and goes and goes and goes, that's, I think, what they're trying to do, hopefully, what they're trying to do, and so I'm going to be watching out for that.
For me, I'm going to keep eyes on Goku and Hao. Last game, Goku had amazing gusts. If they can emulate the same thing with Sunder or Gust this game to get Morales out of position, they can take these team fights.
All right, thank you very much. Let's head over to the commentary desk. It will be Jake and Dread bringing the action from Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Thanks so much, guys. This is it, the elimination match. Game 3, one team will advance into a qualification match, and one team's hopes and dreams will be lost and gone. Dreadnought, Jaina once again here on Tomb. How do you feel about that?
I actually like her on Tomb. I don't think she's like a must-pick by any means, but having the wave clear that's provided by the Triple Blizzard now, it's only one spell, it doesn't cost too much mana, and being such a wave clear oriented map, I definitely enjoy it. On the opposite side, though, Medic makes a bit more sense here, having the Sanctification to be kind of a baby as well for her, where it's not just constant aggression that we saw in the first game. So we'll see if Icona is going to be able to make big plays with her in this final game.
Yeah, and Kona looked really solid on the Medic. Just great restraint, great safe play throughout that game on Dragonshire. But here we are in a very similar layout map where the rotations are prominent. We'll see how that Medic can work out. Coming out of the gates here for Tomb, you know, the 4-man rotation on the side of TNC, as we do have these super strong solo laners, Zagara and Thrall, dueling here in the bottom. Do you think Goku is going to be kind of that big threat in this game, or is it going to be more the Falstad for this flanks? Because we saw Goku on Falstad getting monstrous Mighty Gusts, but he can do the same effect with Sunder.
I think the Sundering should be of equal importance as, I mean, obviously you can never say that Gust is not going to be impactful as long as it's used properly, but I think Sundering is going to be a bit more crucial just because if it is, it's not a disengage if you mess it up the same way that Gust is, right? So we need to make sure that Goku is going to be very on point here as the teams are making the rotation through, Icona keeping everybody up very well. The 1v1 in the bottom half of the map is going to be the Thrall Zag, which is so prominent. Jason's obviously taking a bit of damage here.
Goku's winning that so hard. I mean, old Zag would get the additional regen when he's on the creep, but obviously they've changed the creeps and it's no longer about that. And if Goku keeps trading like this, he's already tapped the well. Like, this is not going too well for Jason.
Yeah,
he actually is Hearthing.
Yeah, he's got to full back here at this point in time, and that's going to hurt him. He did go with Infest in this game, which is going to help him in his 1v1s, or excuse me, when it comes to the sieging if he's left alone into the lane. I really do like the Infest talent. We haven't seen very much of it here in the North American Regional, but it's one of my favorites on her.
Okay, well, Tyrael did go down to make sure to collect the gems, collect the experience in the bottom lane. Zagara back in action, but still so far so good for Goku in that solo lane. Tyrael now rotating back up, looking for the fight and getting eyes on the gem count. It is indeed in favor of TNC.
It is. They're doing a pretty good job. Again, they have a lot of rotation and kill potential. But speaking of that kill potential, Jason on bottom, Goku's going to miss a Feral Heart, and he'll be able to back out from that situation. But Jaina ETC is a large amount of kill potential. But Mac, as long as Iakona's in solid positioning, nobody should die for the most part. Soray's got the wave clear. Iacona can keep everybody up, so they'll be good.
Nice knockback there from Iacona, making the power slide do nothing there. And 16 gems have been turned in total. Jason once again taking a lot of poke, and Goku does have plenty of self-sustain. So he's going to be able to tap the well once more, but that's something that's he's going to have to play a little bit more passively on Zagara. When you have that creep, you do have the additional range for, just throwing out the auto attacks onto Thrall, and actually, he ended up backing once again.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of bullying him out of that lane, and when it comes to the turn, we do have 16 for TNC. Both teams sitting almost even in terms of how many they possess, a little bit of a zone when it comes to the skirmish as well. But really, this is kind of, I don't know, just a standard, I guess, when it comes to Tomb of the Spider Queen, just because how close those lanes are and how important the gem are. Is just send your solos to the bottom half of the map, maybe get a turn in here or there if you can, and then just wave clear, and whoever wins, hopefully get a turn in or at least draining some of the ammo. But no team really is pulled ahead at all when it comes to that, just playing very passive.
So looking at Jaina, do you think it's going to be how K1 was playing Jaina yesterday for the Frostbolt build with Icy Veins at 13?
I think so. I think we might see... Oh, Tiger actually taking a lot of pressure there.
So is Goku, yeah. So actually just barely getting out of there with two of their members, finally turning up the heat on the side of Gul'dan's game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a ring as well.
Okay.
They have a lot of prep for it. As long it doesn't have to be by any means. They can get away with not using ring, but I think it complements onto the ETC with the Thrall as well. As long as Gust is used either way after or very early, they'll be in a really pretty situation with it. But also, I mean, putting a Welly onto a medic is always a great idea, right? Like risking her positioning, the kill potential Buds could have if he gets a deep flank. That is
a Welly? That's what you call water?
Water Ellie? It's a Welly.
News to me. Well, I like it. Soray in the front with the 23 gems. Going to try to turn them in right now as it rotates down. And those roaches are being a bit annoying for Goku, but of course, Chain Lightning can stall out rather effectively. This is a favorable situation right now as Hao is able to push him away, but Zagara doing her best to hold her own. 19 turned in on the side of Gul'dan's game, but both teams just doing a great job denying the turn-ins.
I would really like to see Maw this game. We've seen a bit of Maw and mainly a lot of Nidus as Soray takes actually a bit of poke there. Jason is constantly getting bullied by Goku down there. Such a good job of zoning from him.
Third time subs, like, well, basically 5 minutes in.
Yeah, nobody's been able to go down there and try and help him out either. Iacona has not once made that rotation because TNC has been so dominant on the upper half of the map with Jaina getting that free wave clear, and just Goku now trying to get a turn in, does get the flashlight from Soray, will be able to delay. Tyrael as well is going to be there. I don't think they're going to be able to get this turn in, but it might cause a fight without Jaina. Keep in mind, she's up in the top lane, Jake.
All right, Mac does go deep. He's taking a lot of damage. The body blocks are great, locking him in place, but Soray stepping forward with the Condemn to make sure he's A-OK. Iacona has all the heals in the world, and with the damage coming out from Zagara in the backside, we don't see the same kind of healing output out of Karazin.
Yeah, we don't see that coming out from him. Now Goku is sneaking in the turn into the upper half. Is going to get 27 in. Now 43 are turned in for TNC as they get closer and closer. They have enough here as 44 is still in the bank for them. Soray goes in for the wave clear and takes a decent amount of damage, but look at those healings. As long as, again, I love this choice. Iacona, as long as he has the front line, which he does far better than before, he just makes sure, Soray, you eat all the damage, I'll make sure you're going to stay alive.
Jason managed to drop off a few of the gems there for his team. Only 7 more needed on the side of TNC, but Gul'dan's game getting Tyrael in there, 5 away on their end. So very even so far for everyone. Experience, gem turn in, control. The only story that we've seen so far is just Goku getting some great pushback onto that Zagara throughout the game, but the moment he stepped out of that bottom lane, you were talking about the power of Infest. Look at the damage done to the bottom lane.
Yeah, it's not been very much just because Goku's done such a good job. Like, yeah, he did take out the gate, and drained the turrets with his wave clear, and it's going to get a bit stronger as we move on. But for now, Goku's really kind of limited that because Zagara is an absolute monster when it comes to the laning phase right now. And he is, there it is slowly coming to get that value. And they get the Web Weavers on top of that as well. So right now, Gul'dan's game having a moment to kind of separate themselves ahead of their opponents finally in game number 3.
It really feels like the moment Goku left the bottom, though, we basically saw Zagara running around, getting tons of pressure, like with the creep spread, did a good bit of damage, and then that enabled them to get the turn in, because once that creep gets spread all around the coffer, it becomes so much safer to acknowledge the positions of the enemy team and then find the openings in their defense of the coffers.
Yeah, it is a really pretty position for them to be in, and he's going to have a really good time there in the bottom half of the map in that 1v1, but Tiger JK is taking a bit of
and level 10 is here for Gul'dan's game, so this is something they have to be careful of. They are very close to 10 themselves, but with the Web Weavers in the front, with their support being low, they have to be wary.
Have I ever told you how excited I am that Maw was taking this game? I am ecstatic. I haven't been too impressed with the Nidus Network and how frequent it's kind of popped up here so far in North America, but for once we are going to be able to see these teams taking the Maw, see the team fight potential that it could provide here, and we also see Water Elemental is the choice for the Jaina.
Now, we're talking about big Sunderings with a potential opportunity to follow up with Ring of Frost, big Mosh Pits with Ring of Frost, big even Mighty Gus with the Ring of Frost, but still the Water Ellie. Why do you think they're going for that?
Okay, so, like, first of all, it's still a really great heroic. Like, you don't have to pick Jaina with the sense of, like, you're just going to Wombo. It's just important that he makes sure he blows all of his cooldown into a single target and gets value out of that. And again, Medic, Li Ming, Zagara, they're all kind of risky to that Welly, like, just sitting there smashing into them. They have to draw a decent amount of resources into it. And if he gets a flank onto Medic with that, he will get insane amount of value, forcing her to instantly medevac.
Okay, we'll have to see if it does end up paying off in the end. Srey getting the interrupt, denying this turn-in attempted on the side of TNC, so good control here for Gul'dan's game. The fight continues on. Druin Smite forward, looking for Tiger as they pull him in. But remember, Tiger does have that palm at the ready. All heroics still available, but Jaina goes down.
And her falling down is definitely an opportunity that Gul'dan's game might be able to turn in again. They do have a 15-second window here after already getting the first turn-in and a reasonable amount of damage onto the structures in this matchup. This is a great position for them to be in. So what was for the first two games an absolutely ridiculously dominated game for TNC in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the match, the first time Gul'dan's game looks good in the beginning half.
Yeah, I mean, they've got themselves back-to-back turn-ins with the Web Weavers, now a level advantage, and since some of those walls are exposed, they're going to be able to put on a lot of pressure. Zagara looks like she's going to be left alone. Bottom port will fall quickly. Goku gets pulled into the Condemn, but the palm is there in time. Can he turn around and land that big damage? He's looking for it. He gets the kill on Morales, so no support here for Gul'dan's game. Condemn once again on 3 members. The Maw doing nothing, and the explosion of Tyrael just hunting for anything it can find, but Gul'dan's game overstepping their bounds, and TNC find themselves a really good fight.
Yeah, that was really good punishing from them, especially with the Web Weavers being down. If they had lost that fight, that could have been absolutely impossible to come back from them. So really good force. I mean, a lot of that was because Zagara was not there. And she tried to make the rotation. She made it a bit late. Falset, obviously, having the global can force it a bit earlier. So TNC making a big play in a time that they absolutely needed it. They have 103 gems stored up with already 43 turned in, meaning they have back-to-back in almost another set of turn-ins. Like, if they can stagger these, they really can gain momentum in this match.
Well, they've set themselves up very nicely here. Caught up in experience, just moments away from being on 13 with their opponent's Gul'dan's game. And but note that they do still have good coverage. Everyone has respawn from that fight, looking to deny the turn-in if at all possible. And the cooldowns are pretty even when it boils down to it. The Fly is very aggressive here. Not too sure what he was looking for.
It was Zag. He was trying to get Jason when he was caught out of out of position, but he wasn't able to get it. Now Blessed Shield coming into play. Tiger JK under a lot of pressure.
Sundering.
Sundering is going to hit as well, Jake, and JK makes it out.
Yeah, that was really, really nicely done there by Goku, who's been on point all game long. The power slide to retreat there from ETC, and they have backed away. But the turn-in for the first time in this game for TNC. Now, this bottom Web Weaver is pretty far back, so that's staggered. It's going to allow them to push that back in. They need to get to the mid lane and try to take out some structures.
Yeah, they need mid and top is the one that they have to concentrate to get some value out of, but they can't funnel too hard again because Maw is going to be up off the cooldown. Sundering's still down, and Mosh is only just now coming off of the cooldown so they don't have necessarily the best team fighting tools. Just opening up the map, getting some front walls is really just a dream situation for them because of that.
Okay. How does have that global presence, now escorted this bottom Web Weaver forward and finding some of that experience, taking the experience lead in this game. Johanna is in the top, and this just lets them know that they do have a big opportunity to push on forward. The fly is going on forward, looking for the mighty Gust. The Sanctification actually gets completely whipped. Great restraint there from our Falstad player, and Tyrael just gets evaporated. So the bottom fort will go down. Big damage from the Tyrael explosion, but not enough for the follow-up.
Yeah, it was Sanctification, and he couldn't. He was afraid of the Gust and wouldn't have been able to neglect the Gust for himself. But I mean, you just saw how new in. He just was like, okay, well, you're going to Sancta. I'm just not going to do anything. And it only hit the Tyrael too, right? Like, it wasn't like it was going to be a huge Gust. Even if he hit it, he could have just dropped the Q, for instance, and repositioned himself. So good restraint there on the side of TNC here. They do have a lot to turn in still, 124 on their side, as we now say almost dead even when it comes to experience. Identical structure status. And Goku's being able to sneak in a turn-in the bottom half here.
That's really good. Goku's going to drop off 20 gems right now. Tyrael's just about 15 seconds away from having that Sanctification back, so they're not really at a disadvantage, and just doing their very best to make sure they deny the turn-in once more. As Janna re-enters the fray, if she can find the flanks and land the damage, this could be another big fight. And again, Mighty Gust never actually got used, so that's also still very much available. Yeah,
they want to try and take team fights in chokeholds just again because they have Blessed Shield, Johanna Condemn pulling everything in, Ma, Sanctification, very area of effect-oriented things, as long as they don't get top-decked and wrecked pretty much by the Mosh Pit, which they should be patient enough. And Iacona should sit far enough back that he can interrupt it himself. And they have great poke, right? Look at everybody on TNC right now just eating all the damage. Iacona in a beautiful position, not afraid of anything, putting pressure into Buds.
Yeah, Buds does have to back away. Did drop his Blizzard, so that's a longer cooldown. And it looks like Gul'dan's game will gain control of this. 20 gems will be turned in from Srey. I believe that's all they'll get right now. Actually, Faye getting 16 on top of it. So that is halfway towards their next turn in. 56 with the top from Zagara, but Srey taking big damage. Water has been cast. We do see the Sanctification getting nullifying that Sundering of Goku. And that is going to hurt them quite a bit because they were relying on that for the engage.
Yeah, they were very much depending on that to be successful into the team fight. And with that Sanct, and yeah, he was trying to hit Johanna right before she got into it, but Srey managed to get into that positioning. Now they do not have very many resources. Honestly, the fact that TNC is sticking around for this fight is absolutely terrifying because there was still a Maw available. Their health bar slowly but surely dropping, and now you see them backing out, as I expect to see an attempted turn-in if they can get this gems here for Gul'dan's game.
They just need 4 more. This wave in the middle is going to give them exactly what they need. Srey can waltz on up to that top coffer and turn it in for their next summon of the Web Weavers. That's 3-1 right now.
It is. It is. The turn-ins here have been very good for them overall, and a lot of it, I think, just comes down to how good their team fight is when they sit on top of the turn-in. And, like, Medic is a support we don't see very often, but when you give her multiple routes to be defended, that she isn't relying on her own positioning is the only way to really do well. Like, for instance, Sanctification is a great tool. She becomes a much better hero, but a little bit of greed possibly by Gul'dan's game going out and forcing the Gust.
Tiger gets 34 turned in as well, so Gust is forced. They're 1 away. We were just saying, or I was just saying, Gul'dan's game is going to be 3-1 in terms of the turn-in, but they managed to stall it out, and they're very, very close to getting the turn-in. Now, Zagara, great for stalling this out, but Zagara can't stall if she's dead. Maw of Desperation, Jason goes down. A beautiful pick here for TNC. The Mosh Pit will be interrupted. Not a big deal. They're just buying time for that turn-in and the push-in with the Web Weavers.
And so now this is going to be 16-tier advantage for only a short-lived amount of time, but the Web Weavers now pushing. Somebody needs to get to the bottom lane on the side of TNC to make sure that that gains value. Look how big that wave is. The Web Weaver will eat that thing up, and Falstad didn't make that rotation, so sadly, the positioning on that Web Weaver won't be too great, and it's going to need babied, and so that sucks. That's a turn-in that TNC is really not going to gain too much value out of unless they force a fight in mid. Yeah, look at that wave.
As Dunktrain would say, that is a juicy wave here in the bottom.
I thought he was going to say Dees. He usually says that's a Dees wave. Like, a Dees is his thing, you know?
Yeah, Dees is his thing. Well, the Web Weaver in the middle definitely going to threaten this fort. Falstad collected all the experience and gems in that bottom lane, as the Web Weaver will be not doing a whole lot, but the fort's not down there anyways. 1 level advantage for TNC. Can they hold this here? How much damage can they do?
I mean, it's looking like none. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that they neglected the bottom lane before they backed, which caused them to go bottom to try and baby it, realize it was a bad idea, not get value on mid, and lead to a free clear on both mid and top lane. Now the engage coming out from Srey.
All right, the power slide forward of Justin, but How will get hit with the missiles. Great pawn. They're coming out by Tiger JK, keeping the team, keeping the dream alive right now. Still holding on to that full level advantage. Bottom Web Weaver did apply, you know, some decent damage here.
Can you imagine if that wave was cleared before he backed, how much value that might get? The dream. That would have been an entire keep from wall at that point if they had kept their opponents a little bit busy here. But because of that, now they don't even manage to take the whole thing out. It got more value than I thought it was going to, so they're at least not losing everything on that bottom half. Srey is trying to force the fight, but he doesn't have the Blessed Shield here, and not the entire team with him quite yet. Keep in mind, they have 56 gems turned in for Gul'dan's game.
Power slide forward. That Mosh is still ready, but not going to utilize it, knowing that that Force of Will still a big threat from Li Ming. And we do have the turn-in once again for TNC, so great presence, great push. We're just 4 gems away from Gul'dan's game having themselves a turn-in. They were very, very close to having their third turn-in, but it's actually TNC that get it here. This is the moment.
This is the moment where TNC gets a turn-in and actually gets value out of it.
You
Bottom,
think so?
yeah, I think so. As long as they play it appropriately here, you see them all going to bottom trying to clear this, so now they're going to be moving aggressively, expecting top to get a fort for free at this point, and they're going to leave mid for a free clear here. So it won't be too great. It will be a decent amount applying pressure to this keep front wall, which is going to be opening up a win condition, not necessarily the ideal lane, but it's finally going to get free forward on top and structural damage on bottom.
Alrighty, well, they are definitely positioned nicely. Justin covering that flank, making sure no weird rotations happen here. And that Web Weaver has made it up to start doing its damage onto the keep. Sundering is cast, the focus down in. The Mosh Pit is nice, but the Gust actually working against them. Sanctification will keep the rest of the team alive, and now Srey is looking to push on forward. He tapped well, he's moving forward. We have McIntyre bodying Goku into the corner, but Justin finding the peel, and that's going to be a dead Tyrael. The palm once again, very nice here from Tiger JK, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, as there are even trades on both sides. There's a fat gem in the top of the map. Justin finds it with the power slide. He is retreating. Tiger can look for the Radiant Dash, but actually knocked by Medic, knocking him away.
Yeah, and that picking up that gem was really crucial. It puts him in a position to be able to get another turn-in, even though they did struggle in that team fight. I'm surprised that went that well with how many cooldowns that Gul'dan's game forced very early into the fight. I didn't know if they were going to be able to do too well with it. And I mean, McIntyre almost completely died, but the Sanctification, keeping him alive with Iacona, having his a little sweet healing beam onto him as long as possible, ended up keeping him up. But TNC still has a large control over this game. Mainly because they've done so well in team fights. Like when you look at the turn-ins here, both teams are threatening another turn-in, but TNC is far closer to level 20 and they have a structural advantage over their opponents. Been threatening keeps. Mid-fort's almost going to be going down as well. They were able to sneak it in the upper half here, so maybe Gul'dan's game can try and make something happen. But if TNC hits 20, which is going to be expected to happen during this phase, Gul'dan's game really can't push in, and this is going to be a wasted turn-in.
Well, at least getting the mid fort, maybe getting the towers in the top fort will get them a little bit closer to 20, so they can at least look to try to even things up here and narrow that window in which they're going to be down the Storm Talent. So Srey moving forward. The Web Weavers are here and actually not too staggered. It's actually the middle one that's the furthest back, but Falstad and Buds here up in the top. How and Buds just completely cleaning it up before it even touches that top fort.
Yeah, and that was a really good aggression there from Gul'dan's game. They were able to make something happen with the Web Weaver before their opponents at 20. They still haven't sent anybody but him to soak that lane, so they don't have 20 yet. You see them patiently waiting, but I expect a Flight Gust here, possibly for Hound to win here with the 20 advantage, trying to force the fight into their team, but they play a bit more patient.
Oh. Okay, the Bolt going forward, the fly is in, and the barrel roll, and the Gust completely nullified by that Sanctification. But doesn't matter, the medevac picked up, they're gonna try to fly out, and the Maw's gonna buy some time, but Justin finding a Mosh Pit at the last moment. The explosion of Tyrael finds the kill, but the Divine Palm is there, and TNC is running away with this fight. How, one of the only members remaining in the back there, excuse me, no, he's on the blue team, he's on the good side of TNC.
He's on the good side of TNC. I don't think I've ever seen such a dream strike Gust in my life. Sundering splits the seas and he goes, ooh, right down the middle. Not ended up hitting anybody out of that, confirming 5 kills. It should be. There's no tools up for 35 seconds here. As long as Justin doesn't die, which he shouldn't. He's got ETC. He's got a lot of. He's got Karzim with him as well. That is going to be GG. So I mean, with one wipe, TNC.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Gul'dan's game will be the first team falling out here in Group B. And TNC with, arguably an upset, moving on forward to face Gale Force Esports in the final match of the group.
Yeah, and who thought we'd ever see that matchup, right? The fact that Gale Force Esports is in there in the first place. And Team Name Change, obviously this went to Game 3 and maybe not the best showing, but they showed they have solid drafting. They had a large control of majority of the games. That was the first time they didn't look like they had absolute control of the match. And they still kept their composure, even with maybe not the most ideal engagements, and were able to pull away with it. So I think it's well-deserved. With how we saw Gale Force performing in the first set, I think they might be able to give them a decent run for their money, honestly.
I mean, we didn't expect Vox to go over
City,
Gale Force either, so who knows? It's any man's game today, it seems. And that's kind of the state of North America after our roster apocalypse that just happened. The expectations were thrown out the window. We hadn't seen Gale Force or Naventic playing in a while. Sure, Naventic, they might have gone undefeated yesterday, but Gale Force, not at all their case today. And I don't know, TNC is looking solid. Look at the place here in this match.
Yeah, I mean, Tiger had really good palms that entire game, doing a decent amount, or getting his team to stay alive whenever they needed it here, which is something that a lot of players haven't done with palms so far in this tournament. Right. Honestly, I feel like that's the best Carzzy Paul play that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And then, like, we have this attempt of Gust here, but then he baits the Sanctification, which was really heads up, showing patience there. Sometimes being controlled with your spells and patient with them is just as valuable as being very aggressive and instant with them, so really good job from them here. And again, I mean, this is the only fight that it really felt like they kind of lost this entire game.
Where they just got a little bit over-aggressive and stepped on forward. Even running in with that Kirazim, the palms, as you mentioned. No Rehgar picked or banned in this game, which is a very, very uncommon thing to happen, but it worked out very nicely for Tiger JK. The medevac, you know, we saw some really solid medic play, you know, but in the end, do you think that might have hurt them? Actually, guys, you know what? We are ready to go with an interview. Take it away, TJ.
Thanks very much, guys. That's right. I'm joined by Justin from Team Name Change after their 2-1 victory over Gul'dan's game. First off, I want to talk about Game 1 a little bit. It was a tough loss for you guys. How was the team atmosphere, and how did you manage to sort of keep your composure after that loss and come back for the next 2 games?
Our team isn't like cocky by any means, but we just felt like we were the better team, and we just made like really stupid mistakes to throw that game because we felt like we were kind of in control for most of the game, and we just kind of threw it away. So we felt we could still win the other games.
Yeah, it's a good mindset to have. And also on Game 1, what did you think when they went ahead and picked the medic? And then, of course, in the later on stages, they picked it in the last game as well. What do you think of that pick coming out from them?
We've scrimmed them before, and we kind of figured that they might pick medic, so we kind of picked accordingly. And we had a lot of dives, so we thought that the medic wouldn't really be a problem. We pretty much figured they would go with something else, but they ended up going medic anyways, which kind of surprised us because we had so much dive.
Yeah, it seemed like the sort of support metagame within this series was a little bit weird because even in Game 3, you know, like Rehgar was up and neither team prioritized it. Like you guys prioritized Kirazim over that. Walk me through what the choice between like Kirazim over Rehgar and the whole choice of supports within that whole match.
In the last game, I talked to Tiger, who's our support player, and I asked him pretty much just like, what do you feel is best here? And he said, if we wanted to take fights like just hard engage, then we would want Kirazim versus Rehgar if we just wanted to like poke. And we pretty much, I don't remember if they had already picked medic yet, but we assumed they were going to, so we didn't really want to take a poke fight with medic. Bye.
Yeah, well, it definitely worked out for you guys as you did manage to take that 3rd game. So looking forward to the next series. You guys just have to, you know, play right again. You're going up against Gale Force Esports, which I'm sure looking at the match earlier when they played against Vox and Hill, you weren't expecting to go against Gale Force. But how do you feel going into this final decider match? What do you think of Gale Force Esports as a whole?
I think they're really good, and they've kind of been like our kryptonite. So like in the last event too. So I think hopefully we can beat them this time, and we'll just improve what we did in the last series. It'll be good to get a rematch.
All right, there you go. Well, good luck, man. I'll let you go prep and get ready for that match. But one more match left on the day when we come back. Final match between Team Name Change and Gale Force Esports. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
My name is Fan Yang. My battle tag is Fan. I'm 23 years old, and I'm from Team Naventic. The reason why I think that Team Naventic has been so successful is that We both are able to play the same style of game together very well, and we have very skilled individual players in terms of mechanics. Zuna's shot call is like a pretty aggressive style of play.
Pretty much as the shot caller, I just call down the rotations, what lanes need to happen, and just how we want to play the style and calling out targets during team fight. If one goes in, everyone goes in, so no one hesitates, even if it's a bad call or a wrong decision. As long as the whole enemy team doesn't fully commit against it, then it usually will play out.
All of us are, I would say, pretty like top-tier players in terms of just mechanics alone, and that allows us to kind of, win the little trades, win the 1 versus 1s, and all of that combined just leads us to be one of the top teams.
Fan's definitely one of the strong players in the NA scene.
I think that I've been one of the most consistent players, which is why people say that about me. But I think that all of the top North American players are pretty close in skill level.
I definitely think that Noventic's the strongest team in NA at the moment, with GFE and Cloud9 not being here anymore, and GFE being a little unstable, losing to PBA. So we should be able to beat everyone here.
Right now is a very interesting time because one of the biggest roster apocalypse has just hit North American teams. So everyone is really shuffled around, and everyone's really excited to show what they got and see how good their new teams are. I'd say we're just as excited to show that we can still hold that #1 spot, and I'm looking forward to that.
For this tournament, we definitely need to come out as just the victors, just need to win the whole thing. Doesn't matter how many losses we get playing, we just need to come out with a W at the end of it.
Only the first place is going to qualify for BlizzCon, and yeah, nothing else other than first will leave us fulfilled.